Chapter 854. Grand Elder Tian Shu suddenly felt like he was riding a tiger, unable to back down. What was originally thought to be a heaven-sent opportunity now seemed to be a trap. However, it was also a trap. Lu Tianling Laozu could choose not to jump into it, but Tian Shu Laozu had already fallen into it. This was because the trap he had set was to force Lu Ping to leave Huangli Island. Under the situation where Lu Tianling didn't take the bait, he didn't have the face to return the Huangli Island's spirit vein that he had already occupied. He could only walk to the end. Ever since Tian Shu Laozu forcefully took control of Huangli Island, Jinling had a strange atmosphere. Tian Shu Laozu had already guessed that the reason why Lu Tianling Laozu didn't make a move was not only because she saw through his plan, but also because she wanted to leave the cause and effect for her disciple to solve. As such, not only did Jinling no longer have any objections to Lu Ping taking control of Huangli Island, but it also caused Tian Shu Laozu to fall into a situation where he was bullying the weak. From then on, he no longer had the face to interfere with the matters of the sect. However, the problem was that even if Tian Shu Laozu threw away his pride and decided to bully the weak, could it be that Lu Ping had the ability to take back Huangli Island from him? It was said that no matter how fast Lu Ping's strength grew, there was no reason for him to break through to the Dharma stage. As long as he didn't condense his Dharma, what could he use to fight against Tian Shu Laozu? Tian Shu Laozu, who was in a hurry, seemed to realize that he had unintentionally become a tool in the hands of others, or rather, a tool to test the waters. The few Laozu in the sect seemed to have their own duties, but in reality, they were all paying attention to Huangli Island all the time. For a moment, Tian Shu Laozu actually began to look forward to Lu Ping's return. The feeling of being pushed out by the entire sect to be a benchmark for their own disciples was truly torturous. When Lu Ping emerged from the back of the Heaven's Spirit Hall, the communication sword from the Heaven's Spirit Mountain had already reached Tian Shu Laozu's hands. The moment Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island, the powerful counterattack of his soul had indeed caused Tian Shu Laozu, who wanted to take Lu Ping down a notch, to fail. Things continued to progress beyond Tian Shu Laozu's expectations. From Tian Shu Laozu's point of view, even if Lu Ping were to make a strong comeback, he would still need to ally with the other sects in order to seize control of Huangli Island from him. However, Tian Shu Laozu was clearly wrong again. Lu Ping's counterattack came one after another, as if he did not even consider Tian Shu Laozu's strength as a Dharma adept. What is he relying on to be so arrogant and ignorant? If he really becomes the Dharma adept Laozu in the future, who in the sect would still dare to deal with him? This person is even more arrogant than Jiang Xianlin, even more arrogant than Lu Xianling, and even more arrogant than Mei Xianqin. Tian Shu Laozu did not seem to care about the greetings of the few disciples outside the cave. His face was so dark that it was scary. I have to suppress him, even if I have to bear the reputation of bullying the weak. Just as Tian Shu Laozu made up his mind, the cave that he had opened up on the east coast of Huangli Island began to shake violently. This kind of violent shaking was something that even Tian Shu Laozu could not suppress in a short period of time. However, Tian Shu Laozu soon realized that the spiritual meridians that had formed under the cave were flowing back towards the center of Huangli Island, towards the cave that Lu Ping was in. To be able to change the spiritual meridians so easily, to be able to break the spiritual meridians so easily, could it be that Senior Guo Tianshan had already come to Huangli Island and was openly standing on the side that was against him? No, that's not right. Even Guo Tianshan was far from being able to change the spiritual meridians. That left only one person, Tian Kong Laozu. Jinling, only Tian Kong Laozu had mastered the great power of moving the mountains and filling the seas to perfection, and its power could even be compared to that of an unparalleled power. Only an old man like him could change the spiritual meridians so easily. However, why would Tian Kong Laozu support Lu Ping over such a small matter? A formation, it had to be a formation. Tian Shu Laozu came to a sudden realization. After all, the Black Fox was junior sister Xuanqin's favorite disciple. Her cultivation in formations was already at the level of a master. It was not impossible for her to set up a hidden formation that could evade my detection. Now that the black fox saw that her lover had returned, she had the confidence to activate the formation and wanted to take back the spiritual meridians. How could it be so easy? Tian Shu Laozu roared, and his angry roar shook the entire True Spirit Island. The entire Huangli Island was not very big. In just a short while, Tian Shu Laozu had already arrived in front of him. Just as he was about to scold Lu Ping, he saw a ray of sword light piercing through the void in front of him, heading straight for Tian Shu Laozu's eye sockets. Boy, how dare you make the first move? How dare you? Tian Shu Laozu was enraged. Although he was scolding Lu Ping, his heart was calm. The forest wall of woods transformed into a giant tree in front of him. Countless leaves fell from the tree and formed a green net in midair. After advancing to the Dharma phase, Tian Shu Laozu's protective power was even more powerful. Seeing Lu Ping's sword piercing towards him, Tian Shu Laozu wanted to show his power. He did not dodge or evade. He wanted to use the forest wall of woods to block Lu Ping's sword light. Lu Ping laughed coldly in his heart. His hand gestures became more rapid and waves of vital energy were injected into the flying sword. The sword light pierced through half of the forest wall of woods. Even Tian Shu Laozu broke out in a cold sweat. However, his protective power was still able to block Lu Ping's sudden attack. He could not help but laugh and said, "So it is martial nephew Lu. How dare you attack the old man? Senior sister Lu has taught a good disciple, but this is how." Before he could finish his sentence, Tian Shu Grand Elder screamed in shock. He took a few steps back, but it was too late. The other flying sword that had been hiding behind the first beam of light had caught up with him. The forest of 10,000 woods wall was broken with a crisp cracking sound. The Yiren sword followed like a shadow and pierced towards Tian Shu Laozu. Tian Shu Laozu was caught off guard and could only lower his head to avoid the attack. However, his hair was cut off by the flying sword. His hair was messy and messy. The originally dignified Dharma phase Laozu lost his image in front of the shocked cultivators of Huangli Island. He looked so pathetic. "Son of a bitch, you, how dare you?" Tian Shu Laozu was like a furious beast. His finger trembled as he pointed at the direction where the flying sword light came from. He let out an earth-shattering roar, but his heart was in turmoil. There was only one thought in his mind: how could this be? How could this be? How could this be? A silhouette rose from Huangli Island. Finally, someone on Huangli Island exclaimed, "It is the water sword deity, Enlightened Master Lu Xianping. Enlightened Master Lu Xianping is back. This is going to be a good show. This Lu Xianping is too domineering. He even dared to attack our sect's Laozu. Is he not afraid of being punished by the sect? Punishment?" The great Dharma phase Laozu was beaten up so miserably. If I was Jinling's senior Laozu, I would not have the face to punish him. That's true. When did this water sword deity become so powerful? It looks like he is still at the core forging 9th stage. Even Dharma phase Laozu could not take advantage of him. What? Core forging 9th stage? Are you sure? 20 years ago, Enlightened Master Lu Xianping had just advanced to the core forging late stage. How could he be at the core forging 9th stage now? Tian Shu Laozu looked at Lu Ping with a complicated expression. After a long time, he said, "I didn't expect you to grow so fast. I'm afraid even the others in our sect did not expect this, right?" Lu Ping smiled. "It's not that I'm growing fast. It's just that Uncle Master has been cooped up in the North Sea for too long. Uncle Master hasn't even mastered one of his prime divine abilities. He thinks that he is one of the top cultivators in the North Sea just because he has reached the Dharma phase. He doesn't know that there are many cultivators like me who can fight against Dharma phase Laozu. Perhaps." Tian Shu Laozu held a slingshot in his hand. "But in today's battle, there must be a conclusion between us. Otherwise, we would be letting down those who set up this trap. Lu Ping sneered and said, "You're wrong again, junior martial uncle. From the beginning to the end, you were the one who took the initiative. Who was the one who secretly plotted for you or forced you to do something? A man will do what he did, and if he made a mistake, then he made a mistake. Why do you keep pushing all the blame to others? Or do you want to blame the person who took care of you for your death? Talk is useless. Let's talk after we fight." It was the same slingshot, and the same green ball of light formed on the leather cushion because of the beast tendon. Decades ago, in order to protect Yin Xianchu, Lu Ping had fought against enlightened Xianchu. Even though Lu Ping had forced enlightened Xianchu to use all his tricks, it was undeniable that Lu Ping had lost that battle. Moreover, he had lost without the slightest bit of unwillingness to accept defeat. It was only because enlightened Xianchu had realized the true intentions of the sect and purposely went easy on Lu Ping. Now that he was facing the slingshot and the green ball of light, Lu Ping could tell at a glance that the quality and power of these two weapons were no longer the same as they were decades ago. But now, as his opponent, Lu Ping's growth in power was not something Tian Shu Laozu could imagine. "Today, I will be so bold as to ask Uncle Master to leave Huangli Island." Today, Huangli Island no longer needs Uncle Master's protection. As soon as Lu Ping's voice fell, the green ball of light in the slingshot shot out. However, the ball of light disappeared in the air as soon as it shot out. When it suddenly appeared again, not only was it in front of Lu Ping, it was also smashing towards Lu Ping's head from the left. However, just as the ball of light appeared in front of Lu Ping, a golden light seemed to have calculated the position of the ball of light. The autumn water sword shattered the green ball of light, but the exploded ball of light suddenly turned into a sky full of green silk threads, entangling the autumn water sword layer by layer. A golden light spread from Lu Ping's hand to the autumn water sword's body. All the green silk threads entangling the sword began to wither, dry up, and turn into dust. Tian Shu Laozu's expression changed, and he cried out, "What kind of magic is this?" He waved both his hands at the same time, and countless dandelion-like silk threads appeared around Lu Ping, falling towards Lu Ping's body. It was this move again. Lu Ping sighed in his heart. Although Tian Shu Laozu's level of practice had advanced to the Dharma stage, other than the increase in power due to the increase in his level of practice, his other techniques had not improved much. Chapter 855. After all, Tian Shu Laozu was only a Dharma adept who had attained the 7th grade golden elixir. If he had not had a fortuitous encounter in his early years, how could he have attained the Dharma stage so quickly, to the point where he was almost on par with Junling's 3 truths and 4 spirits? However, the Dharma power that he had attained in the end could not be compared to the Dharma power that the 3 truths and 4 spirits had attained. Although he could not be said to be at the bottom of the early Dharma adepts, he was still one of the weaker ones. Dharma power was different from a practitioner's talent. At the beginning of a practitioner's training, those who were not very talented could still be saved through various methods. However, if the quality of the Dharma power that they attained when they entered the Dharma stage was not high enough, then it would not only affect their future progress in training, but it would also affect the Dharma power of other Dharma adepts of the same level. Lu Ping could tell that this Tian Shu Laozu's training method was definitely the same as Tian Shu Laozu's. It was the same forest wall of 10,000 trees, and the same profusion of fallen petals. This was especially so for the profusion of fallen petals. If Tian Shu Laozu had used it, Lu Ping would have no choice but to retreat. However, now that Tian Shu Laozu had used it, it was instantly destroyed by Lu Ping's flying sword and the meteoric power shield of 1,000 poisons. Lu Ping's calm expression had now become so arrogant and insufferably arrogant in the eyes of Tian Shu Laozu. This was blatant mockery. Tian Shu Laozu suddenly slapped his chest, and a green rock flew out from the space in his heart. This was Tian Shu Laozu's Dharma power. The rock raised its head to the sky and let out a shrill cry. It flapped its wings in the sky, and countless feathers once again floated down. It was the same, blossoming petals of fallen petals, but when Grand Ancestor Tian Shu cast out his avatar, the power of the blossoming petals of fallen petals was more than doubled. Lu Ping's expression finally turned serious, but only slightly. Countless green and white feather-like objects formed from spiritual qi floated down from the sky. Only Lu Ping knew that these countless feathers looked soft, but in reality, each of them weighed thousands of pounds. When these feathers faced an enemy, they were like moths to a flame, falling on the practitioner's body until they completely crushed the opponent. Truth be told, Lu Ping knew that there was another powerful aspect to this profusion of fallen petals. After the feathers fell on a cultivator's body, they would immediately grow roots to pierce into the cultivator's body, absorbing the spiritual energy within the cultivator's body to nourish the cultivator. It would consume the cultivator's primary energy and magic power, destroying the cultivator's fleshly body. In fact, it could even suck away the cultivator's body until only a withered corpse was left. It was truly a powerful skill that was both beautiful and cruel. Lu Ping spread the myriad meteoric poisons evenly across the surface of his skin. Thanks to the fact that he had absorbed several famous highly poisonous items from the world of cultivation, the quality of the myriad meteoric poisons had risen to the myriad meteoric poisons level. Once the feathers fell on Lu Ping's body, they would be corroded by the myriad meteoric poisons, incapable of piercing into Lu Ping's body. However, because Tian Shu Laozu had unleashed his Dharma form, the power of the profusion of fallen petals had greatly increased. The speed at which Lu Ping's myriad meteoric poisons was far slower than the speed at which the feathers fell on his body. Each of the feathers had a weight of thousands of pounds. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ping had paid attention to the improvement of his fleshly body since a long time ago and had swallowed a lot of pills that were used to improve the quality of his fleshly body, perhaps he would not have been able to withstand the power of this skill. For a moment, Tian Shu Laozu had the upper hand. However, he could not bring himself to feel proud at all. All he could do was coldly say, "Since you are senior sister Tian Ling's disciple, I will not punish you for disrespecting your elders. Just return to Tian Ling Mountain and beg for forgiveness from senior sister Tian Ling." As soon as Grand Ancestor Tian Shu finished speaking, a pitch-black flame suddenly rose from Lu Ping's body. The flickering flame looked like a dancing demon that surrounded Lu Ping. From afar, Lu Ping looked like a demonic cultivator hiding in a black fog. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. While Tian Shu Laozu was in a daze, the black flame suddenly spread upwards. One by one, the feathers that were falling towards Lu Ping turned into a spiritual flame in the sky. Tian Shu Laozu turned pale with fright. This myriad fallen petals divine power used a cultivator's true energy as a guide, condensing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to form this scene of endless falling petals. It was originally the most difficult skill to resolve, but he did not expect that his opponent not only had the myriad poison meteorite energy, which was a rare defensive technique in the cultivation world, but also this strange black flame, which could actually use spiritual energy as firewood. The thicker the spiritual energy, the more intense the burning would be. Tian Shu Laozu could clearly feel that the true energy that was attached to the petals was rapidly dissipating due to the burning of this strange black flame. This black flame was a strange item that Lu Ping had obtained in his early years, called the dark prison poisonous flame. Although the quality of this flame was not as good as the myriad poison paste, which was known as the mother of all poisons, in order to improve its quality, it still needed to absorb a large amount of poisonous energy through the burning flame. In the past, when the secret burial ground was opened, the myriad poison paste gathered the poisonous energy inside and condensed many drops of myriad wonder dew, which greatly improved the quality of the dark prison poisonous flame. Both the myriad poison paste and the dark prison poisonous flame could be regarded as the nemesis of Tian Shu Laozu's myriad fallen petals divine power. Naturally, the myriad poison paste was the best at restraining it. However, the myriad poison meteorite energy was extremely difficult to control, while the myriad poison meteorite energy was only a defensive technique. It was more than enough to defend, but not enough to attack. Although the quality of the dark prison poisonous flame was slightly inferior to the myriad poison paste, it was much easier to control than the latter. Moreover, the dark prison poisonous flame was originally a violent fire seed, so it was most convenient for Lu Ping to use it to neutralize Tian Shu Laozu's divine power. Just as Lu Ping and Tian Shu Laozu were fighting, a few rays of light rose from the cave dwelling that Tian Shu Laozu had opened on the east coast of Huangli Island. They flew toward Lu Ping's cave dwelling with a murderous aura. Among the rays of light, Yuan Xuanzhan took the lead, his eyes shining with excitement. He had been waiting for this moment for far too long. Previously, because Tian Shu Laozu was worried about his reputation, he did not want to lose control of Lu Ping's cave dwelling and the island's protective formation. But this time, Lu Xianping actually dared to openly provoke Tian Shu Laozu. This gave Yuan Xuanzhan a reason to take back control of Huangli Island in one fell swoop. Of course, this was only an excuse Yuan Xuanzhan could use to suppress Lu Ping. It could also be used to cover up the thrill of revenge hidden deep in Yuan Xuanzhan's heart after being repeatedly humiliated by Lu Ping. Lu Ping's rise was too fast, so fast that Yuan Xuanzhan, who was also a third-generation disciple, felt despair. He knew that if he wanted to take revenge on Lu Xianping, he would never be able to surpass him no matter how hard he worked. As for the Yuan family, it was just a cultivation family that depended on Jinling. In the past, the Yuan family could be said to be a fence-sitter, waiting for the right price between Jinling and Xianling sect. But now, the Yuan family could only obediently rely on Jinling's whims to survive. Especially when Lu Ping went missing in the Beast Tide, his teacher, Reverend Lu Xianling, caused havoc in the Yuan family. He single-handedly beat the Yuan family's core forging perfected masters into hiding in the family's ancestral hall, not daring to show their faces. Wasn't that also a warning to Jinling? Otherwise, why didn't Reverend Xianshu, who was also a second-generation disciple of the Yuan family and had always been at odds with Reverend Lu Xianling to help the Yuan family? Yuan Xuanzhan had already thought it through. The Yuan family was ultimately not presentable. If they wanted to become a giant, they could only rely on Jinling and rely on the sect's resources to rise. But if they wanted to deal with Lu Xianping, they would have to rely on a righteous cause. They would also need the help of Jinling's higher-ups, Laozu. Only then would they be able to suppress Lu Xuanping's arrogance. Yuan Xuanzhan had some foresight. He knew that with Lu Ping's strength and influence in Jinling, he was almost invincible among those below the Dharma adept level. Even if there were people who could match him, they would definitely not stand up and challenge the sect leader's disciple. Moreover, this water sword deity was Jinling's third Grandmaster Alchemist. Who would offend a Grandmaster Alchemist for no reason, let alone a Grandmaster Alchemist? Coincidentally, at this time, his uncle had come out of seclusion and become Jinling's second Dharma adept, Laozu. His uncle had always been at odds with Jinling's sect leader, and this immediately gave Yuan Xuanzhan hope. As expected, Tian Shu Laozu, who was opposed to Jinling's centralization of power, took advantage of Tian Qin Laozu's time to come out of seclusion to take charge of Huangli Island. The biggest disagreement between Tian Shu Laozu and Tian Ling Laozu was because they had a major disagreement on the development of Jinling. Nearly 100 years ago, Reverend Lu Xianling, who was in charge of Jinling sect's affairs, had a fierce conflict with Reverend Xianshu. However, at that time, Reverend Xianshu seized the opportunity and pushed Reverend Lu Xianling down from his position as the sect's deacon. Lu Tianling Laozu was a supporter of Jinling's centralization of power. He believed that only by concentrating Jinling's power in the hands of the sect leader, Jinling's limited resources could be used to quickly cultivate disciples with potential and increase Jinling's strength. At the same time, in the face of the approaching Mara's disaster, only the sect leader could gather enough power to resist Mara's disaster and quickly take measures according to the development of the situation. This way, Jinling's strongest power could be used to minimize the losses. Tian Shu Laozu, on the other hand, was a supporter of Jinling's balance of power. At the same time, he was also a supporter of Jinling's tens of thousands of years of inheritance. What he valued more was the balance and restriction of power in Jinling's inheritance and development. He believed that the establishment of a sect leader would greatly damage Jinling's inheritance system. Without restriction and supervision, a sect leader with great power could easily cause the formation of unfair events. Huangli Island was the embodiment of this unfairness. As the last disciple of the sect leader, how could a cultivator who had only cultivated for a little more than 100 years be able to accumulate such a large foundation in the isolated Huangli Island? Did he rely on his own strength? Huangli Island had a large amount of resources for training. The small Huangli Island's spirit vein had reached the middle rank. Even most of the medium-sized islands couldn't catch up. Why didn't the sect take back the spirit vein? Was it because he was the sect leader's disciple? Chapter 856. Yuan Xuanzhan took the lead, followed by 2 more rays of light. These 2 rays of light belonged to Tian Shu Laozu's 2 disciples, both of whom were at the core forging stage. Behind them were 2 more rays of light. These 2 rays of light looked very solid. Obviously, they were stronger than the first 3 rays of light, but for some reason, they were lagging behind Yuan Xuanzhan's group. One of the last 2 rays of light was none other than Taoist Master Xuansu, whom Lu Ping was familiar with. Taoist Master Xuansu was Tian Shu Laozu's eldest disciple, and also a disciple that Tian Shu Laozu valued as his successor. She was also a well-known cultivator among the 3rd-generation disciples of Jinling. Although she was slightly inferior to Taoist Master Xiantian, she was still one of Jinling's direct disciples. Otherwise, she would not have been one of the 7 people who accompanied Tian Qin Laozu to the Fantasy Spirit City auction. However, Taoist Master Xuansu's heart was very tangled at this time. He was now at the peak of the 7th stage of the core forging stage, and his status in Jinling was even higher than some of the 2nd-generation cultivators in the late core forging stage. He knew some of the secrets of Jinling's higher-ups, and he had some guesses and analysis about his teacher's current situation. Moreover, he had been in contact with Lu Ping for a period of time. He knew that this little junior brother of theirs, who had less than 100 years of cultivation time than them, was really not easy to deal with. Not only did he have endless trump cards in his hands, but he was also no weaker than anyone else. Tian Qin Laozu was so arrogant in Jinling that there was almost no junior disciple that she would take seriously, not to mention that he was the disciple of Lu Tianling's martial uncle. However, this junior brother Lu dared to go toe-to-toe with Tian Qin Laozu on Jingzhi Island. At that time, he was only at the middle core forging stage, but the final result was even more shocking. The two had clashed several times, and it seemed that in the end, Lu Ping had the upper hand, which finally made Tian Qin Laozu look at him in a different light. From enlightened Master Xian Su's point of view, a person like Lu Ping would never act rashly in a fit of anger. He would only act calmly after planning. This time, Lu Ping had challenged his teacher, Tian Shu Laozu, the moment he returned to Huangli Island. This junior brother Lu must have a trump card that no one knew about. Even if he couldn't turn defeat into victory, he could at least make it so that no one could do anything to the other. However, one should not forget that Tian Shu Laozu was still a Dharma adept after all. If they really reached a point where neither of them could do anything to the other, even if neither of them suffered any losses, Tian Shu Laozu would still lose. The North Sea practitioners would not say that Lu Ping was taking advantage of Jinling. They would only say that a dignified Dharma adept could not handle a junior practitioner in the core forging stage. Needless to say, after this battle, Lu Xuanping's name as the Aqua Sword Deity would definitely become even more famous in Jinling. Beside enlightened Master Xian Su was another 2nd-generation adept of Jinling, enlightened Master Xian Chang. He was already at the 9th level of the core forging stage and was once in charge of Jinling's criminal law. He could be considered a 2nd-generation adept of Jinling. Like enlightened Master Tian Shu, he was also an opponent of Jinling's centralization of power. In the past, he was also one of the masterminds behind enlightened Master Lu Xuanling's downfall from his position as a deacon. At this moment, enlightened Master Xian Chang's face was filled with worry. His worry stemmed from an unintentional warning from Fornax Laozu. Enlightened Master Xian Chang was like enlightened Master Xian Shu before he entered the Dharma stage. He could be said to be one of the few people who were second only to Jinlings, 3 truths and 4 spirits. It was just that enlightened Master Xian Shu's luck was much better than the others. He was only a few decades behind the 3 truths and 4 spirits before he successfully entered the Dharma stage. Enlightened Master Xian Chang, on the other hand, did not have the same luck as enlightened Master Xian Shu. He could only practice step by step. As such, it was extremely difficult to condense a golden core of the 7th grade and above. It was even more difficult to condense a Dharma power. After enlightened Master Xian Chang had come out of seclusion to guard Huangli Island, enlightened Master Xian Chang had once gone to consult Fornax Laozu to see if there was any way to help him smelt a heaven-level spirit object and condense a golden core of the 7th grade. This way, he would be able to fight for his Dharma power in the future. At that time, Fornax Laozu had hinted to enlightened Master Xian Chang not to get involved in the affairs of Huangli Island. In his words, he had hinted that whether or not he could smelt a heaven-level spirit object and condense a golden core of the 7th grade depended on enlightened Master Lu Xianping. However, at that time, enlightened Master Xian Chang did not care. He was only overjoyed because Fornax Laozu had said that he still had hope of advancing to the Dharma stage. As for the method to condense a golden core of the 7th grade, other than finding a suitable heaven-level spirit object, it was nothing more than a secret pill. Since enlightened Master Lu Xianping could make it, then Uncle Master Fornax and junior sister Tianqin could naturally do it as well. Could it be that these 2 experienced alchemists could not compare to enlightened Master Lu Xianping? However, he had no choice but to regret it now. He had been a part of the upper echelons of Jinling for many years. Although because of the expansion of the number of Dharma adepts in Jinling, he had lost the right to participate in many of the decisions of Jinling. However, his hundreds of years of knowledge and experience allowed him to finally see that Huangli Island was actually a trap. A trap that Lu Tianling Laozu had dug for senior brother Tian Shu in order to completely control Jinling and unify all the opposing voices in Jinling. This pair of master and disciple, one in the light and one in the dark, cooperated with each other and had a tacit understanding. Senior brother Tian Shu had probably already realized this the moment he started to fight for control of Huangli Island. However, at that time, he had no choice but to jump into this trap. Moreover, senior brother Tian Shu did not believe that this trap could really bury him. Why? Because of her disciple, Lu Xianping. Tian Shu Laozu's cold smile was still deeply engraved in enlightened Master Xian Chang's mind. However, the scene in front of him was still vivid in his mind. The cunning and astute Lu Tianling really did rely on her disciple. What a good Lu Tianling, what a good water sword immortal. Yuan Xuanzhan's escape light suddenly stopped, and then the other escape lights also stopped. Enlightened Master Xian Chang did not understand what was going on. When he looked up, he saw that in front of the door of Lu Ping's cave, there was a burly, bald man looking at them with a mocking expression. Enlightened Master Xian Chang scanned the man with his divine sense and was stunned. The person in front of him was actually a peak core forging cultivator. Without waiting for enlightened Master Xian Chang's reminder, Yuan Xuanzhan, who was in front of him, stepped forward and shouted, "Who are you? How dare you block the way again?" The bald man stared at Yuan Xuanzhan in amusement for a while, then said, "It's really funny. The few of you want to barge into my master's cave residence, yet you still ask who I am indiscriminately. Are you out of your mind?" This bald man was naturally the lone killer Lei Lao Lu, Lei Di from the Central Plains. Lu Ping naturally knew that enlightened Master Xian Chang wasn't the only one guarding Huangli Island. There were bound to be other disciples under his command. Hence, he left 6th brother Lei behind to guard the cave dwelling to prevent Tian Shu Grand Ancestor's disciples from stealing the cave dwelling when he was busy fighting with Tian Shu Grand Ancestor. Only now did Yuan Xuanzhan notice that the person in front of him was actually a peak core forging cultivator. A murderous aura rushed towards him. He didn't know how many people this person had killed, but Yuan Xuanzhan, who had already advanced to the middle stage of core forging, knew that he was definitely not this person's opponent. He wanted to say a few tough words, but he was overwhelmed by the murderous aura. At this time, enlightened Master Xian Su suddenly took a step forward and stood in front of Yuan Xuanzhan. You must be joking. With your cultivation, how could you have reached the point of becoming someone's slave? Lei Laolu smiled bitterly and pointed at the group fighting in the sky. Didn't he even dare to fight with Dharma Xiang Laozu? What's so strange about me acknowledging him as my master? Although enlightened Master Xian Su was unwilling, she still said, please step aside. This is my, Jinling's, matter. This cave must be taken back. Although you are strong, this is my, Jinling's, territory. If there is a conflict, even junior brother Xian Ping may not be able to protect you. Hee hee. Lei Laolu sneered disdainfully and did not say anything. He looked at Yuan Xuanzhan and the others with undisguised ridicule. It was obvious that he was mocking them for overestimating themselves. It wasn't just enlightened Master Xian Su who was furious. Behind her, enlightened Master Xianchang was also slightly angered. This was Jinling's territory. How dare an outsider behave atrociously here? Yuan Xuanzhan was the first to lose his cool. Although he was only a mid-core forging cultivator, he knew that the person in front of him was clearly not a Jinling cultivator. As long as he could provoke a melee, no matter how strong this person was, Jinling would never side with an outsider. Perhaps he could even accuse Lu Xianping of colluding with an external enemy. As the saying goes, evil breeds courage. Yuan Xuanzhan stretched out his hand and pushed Lei Laolu. How dare you? Jinling is not a place where you can behave atrociously. Enlightened Master Xian Su was shocked. Just as she was about to stop him, Yuan Xuanzhan had already made his move. A giant spiritual palm formed in front of him and slammed towards Lei Laolu. As soon as Yuan Xuanzhan made his move, the two disciples of Tian Shu Laozu also made their moves. Enlightened Master Xian Su and enlightened Master Xianchang had no choice but to make their move. When Lei Laolu saw that the person in front of him was really going to attack him, a murderous look flashed across his face. Although Lu Ping had ordered him to guard the cave, he hadn't told him to hurt anyone. Lei Laolu had only appeared outside the cave because he wanted to use his peak core forging cultivation to force the person in front of him to retreat. He never thought that these people in front of him would be so arrogant. A few mid-core forging minor repairs dared to attack him. Did they really think that everyone in the cultivation world was Lu Xianping? Yuan Xuanzhan was secretly pleased with himself when he heard enlightened Master Xianchang and enlightened Master Xuanzu cry out, "Watch out!" A gust of cold wind blew past Yuan Xuanzhan's ear. Before he could understand what was going on, he felt his body tighten. The true essence in his blood vessels was completely sealed. Yuan Xuanzhan was scared out of his wits. When he looked up to see what was going on, his vision went black. Then, he felt a sharp pain, followed by a feeling of being in the clouds. After that, he didn't know anything else. Chapter 857. Let him go. Enlightened Master Xuanzu pointed her natal magic treasure at sixth brother Lei. She looked at Yuan Xuanzhan, who had been captured by sixth brother Lei, as if she would fight to the death at the slightest disagreement. At this moment, Daoist Xianchang took a step forward and said, "Fellow Daoist, if you're really martial nephew Lu's subordinate, then you should naturally know that if anything happens to the person you captured, then I'm afraid it'll be difficult for martial nephew Lu to explain it to him." Although the two of them refused to compromise, sixth brother Lei's ability to capture Yuan Xuanzhan so easily despite the two of them working together was enough to make the two of them gasp. They knew that even if they joined forces, they would still be no match for the person in front of them. However, they couldn't show any weakness at this moment. They could only brace themselves and hold on. Sixth brother Lei smiled innocently and said, "Don't worry, enlightened masters. This kid wants to drag the two of you down with him, but I'm not a reckless person. However, shouldn't the two of you look up at the sky now?" "What?" Enlightened Master Xuansu and Enlightened Master Xianchang looked at the smiling sixth brother Lei and had a bad feeling. When they looked up, they didn't know when the battle between the two had ended. Speaking of which, Tian Shu Laozu's heart palpitated when he saw Lu Ping's strange dark prison poison fire so easily dispelled his ability. However, he couldn't think of anything else now, and Lu Ping wouldn't give him any more time to think. Tian Shu Laozu's rock swooped down, a pair of sharp claws reaching out from his abdomen and grabbing at Lu Ping. Tian Shu Laozu actually attacked with his Dharma avatar. This was out of Lu Ping's expectations. Although Dharma avatars were powerful, they were most likely to be injured if they were displayed in front of the opponent like this, unless it was a critical moment. Of course, Tian Shu Laozu's divine powers and spells were not limited to these, but the ones he used against his enemies were naturally powerful divine powers and spells. However, these spells were easily neutralized by Lu Ping, and Tian Shu Laozu himself had not been able to find out the depth of the person in front of him. For a moment, he was at a loss of what to do, and so he directly commanded his Dharma power to attack. This was also because Tian Shu Laozu had just entered the Dharma stage and had not done much research on the techniques of the Dharma stage. He also did not have much experience fighting against Dharma stage cultivators. The rock's sharp claws plunged straight into the dark prison poison fire. The strange flames climbed up and burned the rock's golden claws. Tian Shu Laozu's face turned pale, and it was obvious that he was in great pain. The rock Dharma form also let out a shrill cry, but its sharp claws were not actually damaged by the poisonous fire, and it continued to claw at Lu Ping's head. Dang! Dang! Two sounds of metal clashing rang out, and the rock circled back into the sky. Lu Ping's My Lady Autumn Dew sword was pulled back. Even though Lu Ping's inner yuan was thick and strong, he was still shaken by the rock's claws. An evil wind came from above, and as the rock circled above Lu Ping's head, its golden beak suddenly pecked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping snorted coldly, and his right hand's middle finger and index finger stretched out. He drew 9 circles at the pecking beak above his head, and streaks of bluish-purple water lines appeared out of thin air above Lu Ping's head. They formed a noose, and coincidentally, the rock's extended beak was caught in it. Lu Ping's right hand suddenly made a pulling motion, and the noose formed by the 9 water lines suddenly tightened, binding the rock's beak tightly. In Lu Ping's hands, the art of water control had already reached the acme of perfection. The rock had no choice but to flap its wings, and a hurricane surged out, attacking Lu Ping's head. At the same time, cracks appeared in the surrounding space, and strange vines reached out, wrapping around Lu Ping's body. Countless sword rays that looked like fish scales formed a cocoon around Lu Ping. The surrounding vines and grasses were all killed by the water seep sword skill. A black flag suddenly jumped out of the sword cocoon, and gently waved at the Dharma form rock. Waves of water formed huge water ropes in the sky, wrapping around the rock's wings. Although the rock could easily break the water ropes that wrapped around its body, more and more water ropes wrapped around it. In just a moment, the Dharma form rock was swaying in the air. At that moment, he suddenly heard Tian Shu Laozu mumbling something. When Lu Ping looked up, he saw Tian Shu Laozu suddenly looking at him, with one hand pointing to the sky, and the other pointing to Lu Ping. He shouted, "Go!" As soon as he finished speaking, a thunderous sound followed, and it really gave Lu Ping a fright. Before Lu Ping raised his head to look, the violent Yi-Wood spiritual qi had already condensed in the sky above Lu Ping, and a green lightning roared down, smashing towards Lu Ping's head. Yi-Wood divine lightning. Lu Ping let out a strange cry. He did not think that Tian Shu Laozu would actually be able to practice such a remarkable technique, and it really surprised Lu Ping. Although the Yuan family relied on their thunder techniques to dominate the world, this did not mean that other people in the world of cultivation could not practice it. It was just that because the Yuan family had the blood of Pengdaran flowing in their veins, they were able to use all the thunder techniques in the world of cultivation, and the power of these techniques was also a level higher than that of ordinary cultivators. Furthermore, they also had many secret techniques that other cultivators did not have, which were passed down through their veins. These were things that ordinary cultivators could not compare to. When other cultivators practiced thunder techniques, they could only choose a type of thunder technique that was related to their own training method, and it was not easy to practice it successfully. However, once they were able to practice it successfully, among the secret techniques in the world of cultivation, although it could not compare to the direct descendants of the Yuan family, it was still an amazing existence. Moreover, it was being used by the hands of a Dharma adept. At this time, even if Lu Ping wanted to hide, there was no use. A pure white lotus grew under his feet, and layers of dense light surrounded Lu Ping. For a moment, to outsiders, Lu Ping looked like a celestial being. As the green lightning fell, it was like cold water falling into a pot of hot oil. The heavens and the earth were boiling, and the green and white lights intertwined. For a moment, the heavens and the earth were only left with these two colors. Tian Shu Laozu's expression kept changing as he retracted his rock Dharma power. Suddenly, a peachwood sword appeared in his hand. After thinking about it, he did not use it in the end. He only let the peachwood sword circle around his body, firmly protecting it as he slowly retreated. Under the cover of the green and white light, Lu Ping stood calmly in mid-air, looking at the light that surrounded him. A gourd glowing with 7 colors floated above Lu Ping's head, absorbing the green light from the outer layer of the gourd. The violet light blocked everyone's divine telekinesis, but it did not hinder Lu Ping's divine telekinesis, which was hidden within the light. Seeing Tian Shu Laozu put down the peachwood sword in the end and only protected himself with it, Lu Ping put back one of the 2 gentian pearls that were glowing with 5 colors. He thought to himself, "Fine, I'll just make you look bad. Although I can't kill you, if I injure you, it will be hard for teacher to explain to the other Laozu." The green and white lights suddenly collapsed. Tian Shu Laozu, who was far away, was shocked. He saw that the green and white light was actually merging with each other, and then condensing into a ball of lightning the size of a wicker basket. After the ball of lightning, Lu Ping looked at Tian Shu Laozu, who was far away, with a smile on his face. He then pushed the ball of lightning in front of him, and as Tian Shu Laozu's expression changed, the ball of lightning flew towards him. Tian Shu Laozu did not have time to think about how things had turned out this way. The peachwood sword in front of him sent out 99 rays of sword light in a row. Every ray of sword light gave off a sliver of lightning, and then surrounded the sword light to weave into peach blossoms that flickered with lightning. The 99 lightning peach blossoms set off each other, and actually formed a huge lightning peach tree above Tian Shu Laozu's head. The peach tree shook, and countless leaves and petals fell from the tree. It was like a hanging curtain, protecting Tian Shu Laozu. The lightning ball finally collided with the peach tree, and countless lightning bolts jumped and flashed. 49 lightning peach blossoms were struck down, and the peach tree's shadow was mostly destroyed. But before Tian Shu Laozu could catch his breath, a bead that shone with 5-colored light had already broken through the shadow of the peach tree, and was heading towards Tian Shu Laozu's chest. Tian Shu Laozu did not expect Lu Ping to be able to gather enough true essence to use a spirit-nurturing treasure while he was using such a powerful lightning spell. In a state of shock, he reached his hand out towards the shadow of the peach tree. The peach tree sword was pulled out from the trunk, and the shadow of the peach tree, which was mostly destroyed, suddenly disappeared. Only a few dozen lightning peach blossoms were left falling from the tree. The bead that shone with 5-colored light made Tian Shu Laozu feel a real sense of danger. Tian Shu Laozu tried his best to gather the true essence in his body, and the rock image formed above his head again. The peachwood sword was thrown into the air by Tian Shu Laozu, and it fused with the rock's beak. Bolts of lightning suddenly gathered in the rock's mouth, and then shot towards the 5-colored gentian bead. At that moment, a beam of light suddenly flashed in the corner of Tian Shu Laozu's eyes, and by the time Tian Shu Laozu realized what had happened, the beam of light had already shot into Tian Shu Laozu's body. Tian Shu Laozu's body suddenly froze, and the true essence in his body could not be used for a moment. Even though Tian Shu Laozu was able to break free in a split second, the five-colored gentian bead took the opportunity to knock away the peachwood sword, and broke through the rock image's lightning. Just as Tian Shu Laozu was about to recover, the gentian bead smashed into Tian Shu Laozu's shoulder. Arg! Tian Shu Laozu screamed, and the true essence in his body shook. He could no longer maintain his floating body, and he fell from the sky. Just as sixth brother Lei reminded Xian Su and Xian Chang to look up, they saw Tian Shu Laozu screaming in pain as he fell from the sky. The two of them immediately widened their eyes, and their faces were written with, "This is impossible." Chapter 858. From the moment Lu Ping returned to the North Sea and appeared on Tianling Mountain, it wasn't just the practitioners in Jinling, but the practitioners in the entire North Sea, who had their eyes wide open, were paying attention to the direction of Huangli Island. They were paying attention to whether the famous third-generation practitioner in the North Sea would be able to take control of Huangli Island from the hands of his elders. Therefore, everyone who was watching this conflict knew that the small Huangli Island was related to the overall direction of the internal affairs of Jinling. It could even directly affect the development of the entire North Sea. Was it a high degree of centralization of power in the sect, or was it to maintain the tradition of the sect and maintain the balance of power in the sect? Jinling's Lu Tianling Laozu had set up such an unfair situation in front of the stunned gazes of all the sects in the North Sea. She handed the decision to her own disciple while she hid behind the scenes. Just when everyone was shocked by Lu Tianling Laozu's decision, some sharp-eyed practitioners realized that although the possibility of Lu Tianling Laozu losing was much higher, even if Lu Tianling Laozu lost, he wouldn't lose the bet of centralization of power. Could it be that Tian Shu Laozu, as a senior, was bullying a junior and was influencing his teacher's decision? But what if Lu Tianling's disciple won? A Dharma adept losing to a core forging adept, and to a junior at that? How could Tian Shu Laozu have the face to go against Lu Tianling Laozu? Even if he threw away his pride, how many people in Jinling would still be willing to follow him? With a flip of his hand, Lu Tianling Laozu beat him at his own game. He was already in an invincible position. Moreover, everyone knew that Lu Tianling had purposely dug a pit for Tian Shu Laozu to jump into. How could a teacher not know his own disciple's capabilities? However, this Lu Xianping was too heaven-defying. He hadn't even reached the golden core stage, but he was able to suppress a Dharma adept with his core forging stage cultivation. For a time, the entire cultivation world of the North Sea was talking about the battle between Lu Xianping, the Aqua Sword Immortal, and Tian Shu Laozu. The cultivators who had been isolated from the North Sea for a long time could not imagine how a core forging cultivator would dare to challenge a Transcendence Laozu, let alone defeat this Transcendence Laozu. It was like a fantasy. Immediately, some busybodies spread the news that the reason why perfected Master Lu Xianping was like that was because he had just returned from his travels in the Middle Earth. The Middle Earth was the holy land of the cultivation world, and even the Eastern Sea cultivation world was inferior to it. Lu Xianping, the Water Sword Immortal, must have had an extraordinary encounter in the Middle Earth. That was why he was so powerful and could challenge the Fa Xiang Laozu with his core forging cultivation. For a time, the North Sea's cultivation world was filled with yearning for the Middle Earth's cultivation world. Ever since the destruction of Fei Ling sect, the North Sea's cultivation world and the Middle Earth's cultivation world had lost direct contact for 4,000 years. In these 4,000 years, only the top disciples of the big sects in the North Sea had been lucky enough to travel to the Middle Earth through the East Sea. They brought back bits and pieces of news about the Middle Earth's cultivation world or some recent news about the Middle Earth's cultivation world from the East Sea's cultivation world. However, when it came to understanding the Middle Earth's cultivation world, even Jinling, who had built a stronghold in the Yingshan mountain range, was not so arrogant. The fact that Lu Ping had defeated Tian Shu Laozu in a head-on battle had also caused a huge uproar in Jinling. Although Tian Shu Laozu had been beaten to the ground by Lu Ping's gentian pearl and had lost all his face, he knew that Lu Ping had shown him mercy. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured at the very least. The two enlightened masters Xian Su and Xian Cheng helped him up from the ground. The pale-faced Tian Shu Laozu circulated the essential vitality in his body and realized that he was not seriously injured. He cast a resentful and complicated gaze at Lu Ping, who was in the sky, and said in a low voice, "Let's go." They did not even bother to pack up the cave abode on the east coast. The group left Huangli Island in a hurry. Lu Ping did not stop them. Tian Shu Laozu's hurried departure immediately caused a commotion on Huangli Island. After a while, many of the patrolling cultivators on Huangli Island left. After a while, some of the cultivators who ran shops on the island also saw that the situation was not good and packed up their belongings to run away. These people were the ones who had begged Tian Shu Laozu and his disciples to do business on Huangli Island after Tian Shu Laozu took control of Huangli Island. Some of them even used Tian Shu Laozu's deterrence to force many of the old shops on Huangli Island to leave. Now that the change of ownership of Huangli Island was a foregone conclusion, these cultivators who were worried about Lu Ping's revenge did not dare to stay any longer. One by one, they put down their errands and businesses and left Huangli Island. Lu Ping returned to his cave abode. From afar, he saw sixth brother Lei standing at the entrance of his cave abode with Yuan Xuanzhan in his hand. Lu Ping smiled and walked towards sixth brother Lei. Yuan Xuanzhan had plotted against Lu Ping several times in the past, especially when he almost kidnapped Hu Lili in the open sea, causing him to die in the beast tide. Although Lu Ping did not have any direct evidence and Lu Tianling Laozu had also caused trouble in the Yuan family, it did not mean that Lu Ping was willing to let him go. It was just that Lu Ping had a lot of things to do and the complicated relationships in the sect. On top of that, Lu Tianling Laozu had just ascended to the position of sect master. Lu Ping did not want to affect his master's plan to take control of the sect, so he had been tolerating it. However, now that Lu Ping had reached this stage, when he looked back at the Yuan family, he really looked like a clown. Even with Tian Shu Laozu's support, if Lu Ping insisted on destroying the Yuan family, not many people could stop him. What a joke. Now that Lu Ping was a force in Jinling, who could defeat a Dharma adept? Who in the North Sea cultivation world would dare to treat him as a core forging adept? After this battle, Lu Ping's status in Jinling would definitely rise. Although he might not be able to be on the same level as Tian Cheng, Tian Shan, and Tian Feng Laozu due to his seniority, any decision made in Jinling would probably not be able to bypass Lu Ping. This was the status that came with power. And Lu Tianling Laozu, as the sect master, would definitely have more control over the sect because of his disciple. Once Tian Lin Laozu passed his first Dharma tribulation and reached the mid-Dharma stage, Jinling would officially enter the era where the second generation of disciples would take over Jinling. Sixth brother Lei looked at Lu Ping and laughed. Now that you mention it, it's funny. The North Sea cultivation world is really like a bunch of country bumpkins who have never seen the world. When they saw that you defeated a Dharma adept, they were even more shocked than if they had seen a ghost. Lu Ping smiled and said, "The North Sea has been isolated for a long time. At most, they have only had some contact with the East Sea cultivation world. Not many people know that there are different levels of Dharma adepts of the same level. My uncle Master Tian Shu is just one of the weaker early Dharma adepts. Defeating him is nothing to brag about." Sixth brother Lei pointed at Lu Ping and laughed. "You're being unreasonable. You're a guy who even dares to fight a mid-Dharma adept. Even Fan Yuqing died at your hands. Naturally, you wouldn't care about early Dharma adepts. What I find strange is that in a place as barren as the North Sea, there's something strange about you." Lu Ping smiled and said, "Brother Lei, don't be so pretentious. With Brother Lei's strength, even in the big sects in the Central Plains, you're one of the strongest direct disciples. Even in the 5 Holy Lands, with Brother Lei's assassination skills, you might be able to fight against the direct disciples. But now, you're laughing at me. 6th Brother Lei stopped joking and said seriously, you've made your Uncle Master suffer such a huge loss and lost so much face in the cultivation world. Yet, you let him go. Aren't you afraid that he'll seek revenge in the future? You must know that it's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. Although you're powerful, you're still not at the peak of the cultivation world. There are plenty of people who can defeat you. Lu Ping shook his head and said, Brother Lei, I can't kill him. My fight with Uncle Master Tian Shu is only about the inheritance of the sect and the way to expand. It's not a fight to the death. If I really kill him, the Jinling sect will definitely fall into internal strife. The Laozu, especially the first Laozu, will definitely interfere. When that happens, all of Master's plans will be for naught. What's more, this person had the chance to kill me in the past, but in the end, he didn't take the opportunity to settle this personal grudge. No matter what, I should let him go. 6th Brother Lei shook his head, clearly not approving or disapproving of Lu Ping's methods. Instead, he threw Yuan Xuanzhan to the ground and said, this guy took advantage of the time when you were fighting to seize the cave. I'm afraid he even planned to kidnap your wife. After I stopped him, he even tried to drag the core forging cultivators behind him into the water in an attempt to besiege me. Now that I've captured him, you can deal with him as you see fit. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then extended a finger and pointed at the unconscious Yuan Xuanzhan on the ground. A golden mist instantly entered Yuan Xuanzhan's chest. The intense pain woke Yuan Xuanzhan from his coma. He felt as if his body was being bitten by countless things, causing him to roll on the ground. What did you do to me? The intense pain did not affect Yuan Xuanzhan's rationality. Have you heard of the myriad poison serum? When Lu Ping's words entered Yuan Xuanzhan's ears, it was as if a devil was teasing him. Ha, you're willing to use such a precious thing to kill me. Amidst his shrill and hoarse roar, Yuan Xuanzhan finally made his meaning clear. 6th Brother Lei revealed a trace of admiration and said, you have some tough bones. Lu Ping did not show the slightest expression on his face towards Yuan Xuanzhan, who had been tortured like a ghost by the myriad poison meteorite qi. Instead, he continued in a cold voice, do you know of the 8th scenic restaurant? The pain in Yuan Xuanzhan's body had already subsided. Although he did not know why Lu Ping was still alive after injecting the myriad poison serum into his body, when he heard Lu Ping's words, he suddenly raised his head and said, you're not going to kill me? Lu Ping ignored his astonishment and said, the golden mist I injected into your core space is not the myriad poison serum, but the myriad poison meteorite qi that I refined. You come from the Yuan family, so you must have some knowledge. You should know that your life is in my hands. Unless your cultivation surpasses mine in the future, your life is in my hands. Even a great cultivator cannot save you. Chapter 859. Why don't you just kill me? Yuan Xuanzhan finally stood up in front of Lu Ping. By now, he had calmed down and was staring at Lu Ping with a pair of dark eyes. Lu Ping shook his head. Ling Qian might not be Master's favorite, but she's still my senior sister. You're her Dao companion, so I won't kill you. In the future, you'll be on duty in the Baiying Tower. What big words. The Baiying Tower is a great treasure that Tianlin Laozu found outside. You, Lu Xianping, can send me there with a single word. Do you really think that Jinling belongs to your family? Lu Ping sneered. Although Jinling doesn't belong to my family, the Baiying Tower is mine. If I put someone in there, not even Senior Grandmaster Tian Xiang can say anything. Yuan Xuanzhan stared at Lu Ping, dumbfounded. When Tianlin Laozu brought the Baiying Tower back to the sect, it had caused quite a stir. The Baiying Tower was a treasure between a treasure and a heavenly grotto heaven. In terms of quality, it might not be as good as a true heavenly grotto heaven treasure, but it only had two real functions. One was to suppress, like a prison, to imprison opponents in the tower. The other was a trial. The 8th scenic tower could create different illusions by placing different spiritual treasures. Moreover, these illusions were extremely realistic, as if they were different worlds. It could also evolve into different beasts and birds of prey according to the grade of the spiritual treasures. It was an excellent place for disciples to train. This was especially true for the second function. The sect would nurture some disciples to be used, but none of them had any knowledge or experience. They only knew how to follow the instructions, so how could they have any future? Those divine abilities and magical arts could only be mastered through life and death battles. However, if these disciples were to be sent out to train, it was unknown how many losses they would suffer each time. If these disciples could train in the 8th scenic tower before being sent out, it would be extremely beneficial to their growth and training. Only the great sects with deep foundations would have a place like the Baiyang Tower. Jinling had once tried to refine a similar treasure, but the method to refine such treasures was usually forbidden by the great sections. Jinling had no way of obtaining it. Moreover, the amount of spirit materials and energy needed to refine such a treasure was no less than refining a similar type of heavenly grotto heaven treasure. For Jinling, this was an unbearable burden. Yuan Xuanzhan never thought that the Baiyang Tower that Jinling Laozu regarded as the sect's treasure was actually Lu Ping's. Looking at Lu Ping's matter-of-fact expression, Yuan Xuanzhan couldn't bring himself to suspect anything. Moreover, Lu Ping wasn't lying to him. Seeing Yuan Xuanzhan disappear into the teleportation formation, 6th brother Lei, who had been muttering to himself, suddenly asked, "Is that Baiyang Tower something from the Surplus Heavens sect?" Lu Ping curiously looked at 6th brother Lei and asked, "How did brother Lei know?" 6th brother Lei chuckled and didn't say anything. Lu Ping knew that he didn't want to say something, so he didn't ask him again. At this time, 6th brother Lei opened his mouth and said, "You want him to be a guard?" When 6th brother Lei revealed the origins of the Baiyang Tower, Lu Ping already knew that 6th brother Lei knew many of its secrets. Thus, he wasn't surprised to hear 6th brother Lei mention the Baiyang Tower's guard. Lu Ping nodded and said, "His cultivation is at the 5th layer of core forging, so he can be a guard on the 5th layer." 6th brother Lei said doubtfully, "It seems that the Baiyang Tower has already been brought back to Jinling. Didn't the Laozu arrange for guards on each layer to be responsible for the disciples' trials and to suppress the cultivators imprisoned in the tower? Aren't you afraid of offending the Laozu by arranging for him to be there?" Lu Ping glanced at 6th brother Lei and said, "Keep your thoughts to yourself. Since I'm making an example out of Yuan Xuanzhan, it's not just for one person. This time, I'm just a pawn. But after suppressing Tian Shu, it means that I can also be a pawn in the sect. I'll demote Yuan Xuanzhan to 8th Scenic Pavilion, and the sect's grand ancestor will definitely give in." 6th brother Lei gave a thumbs up and said, "You're awesome. You've established your prestige in front of your Laozu." Lu Ping chuckled and said, "What else can I do? This time, it was the Laozu who used me as a spear. No matter what, I have to compensate them. Besides, I've already refined the stone tablet on the 8th layer of the Baiyang Tower, so the final decision of the guard arrangement lies with me." 6th brother Lei looked at Lu Ping walking towards the cave dwelling and murmured, "I knew you were a cunning brat." The two entered the cave dwelling and saw Hu Lili and Linglong chatting passionately. Linglong's wine cauldron had already stopped spinning. The mid-sized spirit vein that Tian Shu Laozu had previously moved to the east coast had now been reversed by Linglong's wine cauldron. It had been drawn back and suppressed under the cave dwelling to prevent it from flowing away. Lu Ping nodded at Hu Lili and said, "Since the spirit vein has been taken back, you still have to take care of the formation. Let's go according to the original distribution." The many cultivators on Huangli Island had yet to recover from the shocking battle above Huangli Island when they suddenly heard a muffled rumbling sound coming from the ground below Huangli Island. Just when everyone was at a loss, a cultivator with a keen divine sense suddenly exclaimed, "The spiritual energy is rising again." The concentration of spiritual energy on Huangli Island is rising. Spiritual Master Lu Xianping has taken back the spirit vein. Those branch veins must be full of spiritual energy now. Doesn't that mean those abandoned cave dwellings can be used for cultivation again? Speaking of which, Spiritual Master Lu Xianping is really generous. Not only did he deliberately draw out a few small spirit veins to build cave dwellings for cultivators to cultivate, he also used the spiritual fields as a medium to spread the spiritual energy in the spirit veins through the island's protective formation. This caused the concentration of spiritual energy on the entire Huangli Island to be twice as high as other places. No wonder Huangli Island can attract so many cultivators. Many cultivators swarmed towards the few small spirit veins that Hu Lili had deliberately left behind to benefit the cultivators on the island. Since the spirit veins on the island were once again under spiritual master Lu Xuanping's control, the cave dwellings on those branch veins must have become delicious cakes. The faster you move, the less you move. A few days later, the attentive cultivators found that the concentration of spiritual energy on the entire Huangli Island seemed to be increasing slowly even after it had returned to its previous level. Just when many cultivators were secretly wondering about it, news came from the disciples stationed at Jinling Island that the concentration of spiritual energy on Huangli Island would double from the original basis. Furthermore, they would also draw out a few branch veins from the spirit veins on the west coast to build cave dwellings for cultivators to rent. When the news came, all the cultivators on Huangli Island rushed to spread the news. The number of people coming and going on Huangli Island suddenly increased by 20%. If it wasn't for the fact that the area of Huangli Island was really limited, and the fact that the spiritual energy gathering area on the island had been used by the outer disciples of Jinling sect to plant various spiritual grains and herbs instead of being used to expand the market area of Huangli Island, the number of people on Huangli Island might be even more terrifying. In the cave dwelling, Hu Lili said worriedly, "Are we being a little too extravagant? Ever since the spirit veins on the island gathered into a middle-sized spirit vein, we've been searching everywhere for years, but we've only hidden a small spirit vein secretly without being discovered by Uncle Tian Shu. If we continue to use it like this, 1/10 of the entire spirit vein will be given to others for free." Lu Ping smiled and said, "How can we give it to others for free? The cave dwellings on those branch veins can at least recover a batch of spiritual stones, right? As for increasing the concentration of spiritual energy on the entire island, that's just a gimmick. How much resources can we waste from the spirit vein?" Hu Lili said, "We have to take care of our own cultivation first. Although half of the middle-sized spirit vein is enough for us to cultivate on a daily basis, don't forget that you still have a few little guys with you. Which one of them is easy to deal with? You have a lot of friends from the same sect. Sometimes, they need to practice their supernatural powers and secret techniques, and sometimes, they need to go into closed-door cultivation. However, they can't wait to go to the sect, so they have to come to you to borrow the spirit vein. In this way, a middle-sized spirit vein is barely satisfactory. If several of us go into closed-door cultivation at the same time, I'm afraid we won't even have enough for ourselves." Lu Ping glared at sixth brother Lei, who had been watching Lu Ping being scolded and gloating. He rubbed his chin and said with a chuckle, "Don't worry, look at what this is." After saying that, Lu Ping took out a few boxes from his storage artifact and lifted the spirit-locking talisman on them. A few round and crystal-clear beads appeared in front of Hu Lili. Spirit-gathering beads? Why are there so many of them? Hu Lili looked at the rolling spirit-gathering beads in the box and asked in surprise. There were 9 small-sized spirit-gathering beads in the box. They were the 4 that Lu Ping had obtained from the Fist Valley in Yingshan Mountain Range and the 3 that he had obtained from Sang Yu at the Underground Trade Fair in Tianxian Ancient City. In addition, Linglong had also condensed some of the small-sized spirit-gathering beads into 2 small-sized spirit-gathering beads. Other than the 9 spirit-gathering beads, there were also 5 small-sized spirit-gathering beads. These were the leftover beads that Linglong had used to fuse with the small-sized spirit-gathering beads. Hu Lili happily kept these spirit-gathering beads and said, "That's great. With this, Huangli Island can have 2 middle-sized spirit veins. The remaining small-sized spirit veins can be rented out again. At the same time, it can also increase the density of the spiritual energy in the entire Huangli Island and attract more cultivators." Hu Lili set up a formation in the center of the cave abode and placed the 9 small-sized spirit-gathering beads in different positions on the formation plate. Dense spiritual energy quickly filled the cave abode. This was a spirit fusion formation that could accelerate the speed at which the spirit-gathering beads were transformed into spirit veins. Under normal circumstances, it would take a year to catalyze a spirit-gathering bead into a spirit vein. However, with the support of the spirit fusion formation, it would only take 3 months for the transformation to be completed. Of course, this spirit fusion formation could not be casually set up. One could tell just by looking at the dozens of high-grade spirit stones embedded around the formation plate. Moreover, these spirit stones had to be changed from time to time as the formation operated. Chapter 860. The spiritual qi concentration on Huangli Island continued to rise. News of the quality of the spirit veins on the island also spread. The number of cultivators traveling between Huangli Island and the North Sea increased again. Many cultivators began to try to obtain the right to live on Huangli Island for a long time. If not for the limited area of Huangli Island, the daily flow of people on Huangli Island would have already exceeded 5,000. The most obvious change was on a highland on the west coast, where the patrolling disciples of Zhenling's sect had once again opened up a few more cave abodes. 5 mini-energy veins were drawn out from the main energy vein on the island to supply the energy needs of these cave abodes. The pace of construction on Huangli Island did not stop. A huge magic formation was laid down in the center of Huangli Island under Taoist Master Mystic Fox's command. Not long after, another piece of news came from Huangli Island. The magic formation in the center of Huangli Island was set up to draw in the nearby islands. Huangli Island would expand again. After the news spread, many cultivators and forces in the North Sea turned their attention to Huangli Island again. Huangli Island was now one of the few prosperous islands in the North Sea. The abundant cultivation resources in the Outer Sea attracted the North Sea cultivators to explore the hinterland of the North Sea monster race. Previously, due to the limitations of Huangli Island, it could not accommodate too many cultivators going out to sea. This time, the expansion of the island would definitely usher in a new wave of North Sea cultivators. Huangli Island itself would also become more prosperous. Just as the cultivators on Huangli Island were guessing who would be the one presiding over the magic formation to merge the islands and expand the area of Huangli Island, an even more shocking piece of news came out. The person presiding over the magic formation this time was actually the island lord of Huangli Island, Taoist Master Lu Xianping, the Water Sword Immortal. It should be noted that those who could expand the area of an island in the ocean were mostly cultivators who had mastered rare secret techniques or earth attribute techniques. There were very few cultivators who practiced earth attribute techniques in the ocean to begin with. It was even rarer to see someone who could master a technique that could expand the area of an island. Last time, Lu Ping invited Taoist Master Guo Xianshan to use the great technique of moving mountains and filling seas to double the area of Huangli Island. Even so, Huangli Island was still a miniature island. This time, the spirit veins on Huangli Island had grown to the level of 2 mid-sized spirit veins. Trying to nurture a single mid-sized spirit vein on a small island was already too much to bear, resulting in a lot of wastage. This was also the reason why Tian Shu Laozu insisted on taking back the spirit veins. Now that the 2 medium-sized spirit veins were gradually taking shape, it was even more urgent to expand the area of Huangli Island. Moreover, this time, Huangli Island had to be expanded into a small island to be able to bear the burden of the 2 medium-sized spirit veins. Previously, many cultivators thought that Lu Ping would once again invite Guo Tianshan Laozu to use the moving mountains and filling seas divine power to expand Huangli Island. After all, Laozu Tianshan was now a Dharma form Laozu. When he used this great divine power, its power would definitely be much stronger than before. It would be enough to double the size of Huangli Island. However, there were still many cultivators who thought that perfected Lu Xianping would invite Tian Kong Laozu to come and preside over the Great Formation. These cultivators had good reasons for doing so. Perfected Lu Xianping was now like the sun in the sky in Jinling. Even Dharma form Laozu had been defeated by him. In the future, the development of Huangli Island would definitely prosper. If Huangli Island was only expanded to a small island, what if one day perfected Lu Xianping found another medium-sized spirit vein? Would Huangli Island not expand further? Naturally, perfected Lu Xuanping's foresight was not that short-sighted. Therefore, he would definitely invite Tian Kong Laozu, who was a mid-Dharma form, to use the even more powerful, moving mountains and filling seas divine power, to directly expand Huangli Island to the level of a medium-sized island. However, now that there was suddenly news that perfected Lu Xianping was the one presiding over the Great Formation, it was inevitable that all the cultivators on Huangli Island looked at each other. Everyone knew that perfected Lu Xianping practiced water-based techniques. How could he use them to expand Huangli Island? If it was said that perfected Lu Xianping could use his divine power to completely submerge Huangli Island in the sea, perhaps many people would believe it. Tianling Mountain, Guotianshan Laozu's cave. Guotianshan Laozu looked at Chu Tiancheng Laozu in front of him with some surprise and asked, "Junior brother, you just returned to the North Sea not long ago. Didn't you say that you would stay for half a year to train the disciples? Why are you returning to Yingshan Immortal Academy now?" Chu Tiancheng Laozu's expression was slightly awkward as he said, I suddenly remembered that there are still some things that I have not dealt with in the Central Plains. Moreover, I am a little worried about senior brother Liang overseeing the Immortal Academy alone, so I have to go and take a look in advance. As for the few disciples under me, I have already taught a few of them. This time, Xian Yong is planning to bring him to the Central Plains to see the world, and I have already gotten senior sister Tian Ling's approval. Guotianshan Laozu looked at him suspiciously and said, "I always feel that you have something that you are not telling us. Don't tell me that you ran away because of the fight with martial nephew Xianping." Chu Tiancheng Laozu opened his mouth and said, "How do you know?" Then, he seemed to realize something and immediately changed his words, shouting loudly, "How could I run away? Isn't it because there are still some things that I have not dealt with in the Central Plains?" Looking at Guotianshan Laozu's mocking gaze, Chu Tiancheng Laozu helplessly sighed and said, "You have also seen that senior brother Tian Shu was defeated by him so easily. Although I have defeated senior brother Tian Shu, it is extremely difficult for me to defeat him as easily as that brat. In that case, the old man really does not have the confidence to defeat him. Moreover, that brat has endless tricks up his sleeves. Who knows if he still has some trump cards that he has not shown. If I really fall into his trap, the reputation of the old man will be ruined just like senior brother Tian Shu." Guotianshan Laozu laughed and said, "This does not sound like something that Thunderfire would say. But it is indeed not the right time for you to fight with him. After all, he is a junior and he is very powerful now. If you really fight with him, regardless of the outcome, it will be troublesome if senior sister Tian Ling misunderstands." Tiancheng Laozu was stunned and said, "No way, you and I have always been neutral. I have never supported brother Tian Shu. Senior sister Tian Ling believes you, but others may not, especially those who oppose the establishment of a sect leader." Tiancheng Laozu said solemnly, "No way. At this point, they still want to fight? Why doesn't Uncle Master Tian Xiang do something about it?" Guotianshan Laozu smiled bitterly and said, "They can't win now, but that doesn't mean they have given up. They are waiting for senior sister Tian Ling to make a mistake." Tiancheng Laozu sighed and said, "I hope this will not affect the development of the sect." Tianshan Laozu shook his head and said, "They won't. Our sect is already established in the North Sea. They are only fighting over the speed at which our sect rises and the long-term layout in the future. Both sides are people who know the big picture, so they won't mess up. Moreover, Uncle Master Tianxiang is in charge. As long as he is there, there will be no internal strife in our sect. Then what if that day really comes, what level do you think senior brother Tian Lin will reach? Oh, that's true. Uncle Master Tian Xiang has at least 400 to 500 years left to live. With senior brother Tian Lin's talent, I'm afraid he has already become a grand cultivator. Don't forget about senior sister Tian Ling and junior sister Tian Qin. Both of them also have a chance to go through the second thunder tribulation, especially senior sister Tian Ling. Ever since she entered the Dharma phase, her cultivation and strength seem to have grown more and more unimaginable. Otherwise, junior sister Tian Qin wouldn't have gone into seclusion to cultivate. That's true. They have been fighting for hundreds of years. It would be strange if one of them gave up. But senior brother, you seem to have missed one person. Who? Tian Shan Laozu looked at Tian Cheng Laozu in confusion. Then, he came to a realization and said, you mean junior nephew Xianping? Although it's extremely difficult to become a grand cultivator in 500 years, with junior nephew Xuanping's current condition, it's very likely that he will pass through the first thunder tribulation. Tian Cheng Laozu laughed. He can already defeat an early Dharma adept. When the time comes, even if he is only a mid-Dharma adept, which grand cultivator would dare to look down on him? Tian Shan Laozu laughed. That's true. At the same time, in another cave abode on Tianling Mountain, Tian Shu Laozu sat down with an ashamed look on his face. In front of him was Tian Fan Laozu, who was trimming a bush of flowers. Teacher, are we just going to let it go like this? Ancestor Tian Fan placed the scissors he used to trim his plants to one side. He picked up a flask of spiritual water and slowly poured it over the plants. He said slowly, don't tell me you still haven't given up. Tian Shu Laozu's expression changed. In the end, he said fiercely, I didn't expect that senior sister Lu Tianling would be so calculative, and that disciple of hers is even more demonic. I'm useless and I've embarrassed you, teacher. Ancestor Tian Fan put down the water bottle in his hand and glanced at the dispirited ancestor Tian Shu. He said, weren't you scheming against her as well? If junior niece Tian Ling wasn't scheming enough, she wouldn't have had a chance to become the sect master. Since you've lost to her, it just means that we've made a good choice in choosing the sect master. Ancestor Tian Fan pulled down a towel from the wooden rack beside him. As he wiped his hands, he said, since you've lost, martial niece Tian Ling's influence in our sect has already been established. Her position as sect master is in jail. Tian Fan Laozu threw the towel on the wooden rack and glanced at Tian Shu Laozu. He added, she's in jail for stepping on your shoulders. Seeing Tian Shu Laozu laugh bitterly, Tian Fan Laozu then continued, as for that Xianping kid actually being able to defeat you, although it surprised the old man a little, it's still within reason. It's a pity that you haven't been to the central mainland. The North Sea training world has ultimately limited your vision. If you've been to the central mainland in your early years, you'd know that it's not uncommon for a late core forging disciple to go up against an early Dharma adept in the central mainland. Of course, to be able to defeat a Dharma adept, that kid Xianping must at least be at the same level as the top disciples from the 5 Holy Lands and the Crystal Palace. At this point, Tian Fan Laozu suddenly paused. He saw a small door open in the air in front of Tian Fan Laozu, and a jade scroll floated out from the door. Tian Fan Laozu took it and looked at it. He sighed and said, 8 Sceneries Restaurant. From now on, there's another person in our sect who can play chess. And it's someone who even the few of us old fellows have to give in to. Chapter 861. Tian Shu Laozu looked at Tian Fan Laozu suspiciously. Tian Fan Laozu looked at him and said, take it and see for yourself. What? Tian Shu Laozu used his will to look at the jade scroll and said angrily, "How dare he? The Baiying Tower is an important place in our sect. How can he interfere? Why can't he interfere?" Tian Fan Laozu stared at Tian Shu Laozu and said, "Why can't he interfere?" Tian Shu Laozu was discouraged by Tian Fan Laozu's stare. He calmed down and said, "He's just a third-generation disciple. He hasn't even reached the Dharma stage. How can he interfere with the Baiying Tower? The Baiying Tower concerns our sect. Even in our sect, only the first-generation uncles, Lu Tianling and Jiang Tianlin, have the authority to control it. What right does this kid have?" Tian Fan Laozu saw that Tian Shu Laozu was hesitant when he said that he hadn't even reached the Dharma stage. He sighed. Although this disciple in front of him was the most outstanding disciple in his sect, it would be hard for him to improve his skills in the future. Tian Fan Laozu said in a low voice, "What right? Defeating you is the right." Tian Shu Laozu's face changed, but Tian Fan Laozu's words still reached his ears. He has already suggested to the sect that we don't need a Dharma adept to guard Huangli Island for now. Tian Shu Laozu's face was still dark, but this time, he did not say much. He only said, "Xian Zhan is my nephew in the Yuan family. He is also the hope of the Yuan family." "Teacher, do you think," Tian Shu Laozu said, "do you know why Tian Ling disciple caused such a ruckus in the Yuan family, but in the end, nothing happened? On top of Huangli Island, the huge magic array was completely activated because Lu Ping had placed a best-grade spirit stone into the groove under his feet. The entire magic array first issued a loud rumbling sound, then began to violently tremble. It didn't take long before the entire Huangli Island began to tremble along with the spirit array. Looking from afar, the entire Huangli Island looked like a lid on a kettle, rising and falling along with the waves of the sea. Lu Ping took a step, and a rich purple-blue light burst out from beneath his feet. With Lu Ping as the center, threads of true essence permeated through the entire array formation in all directions. The entire formation began to emit a pale blue radiance. As the radiance flickered, the entire Huangli Island seemed to have transformed into a huge blue gemstone. How is perfected Lu Xianping planning to expand Huangli Island? At this time, in the sky above Huangli Island, there were at least 100 adepts who had obtained residency rights on Huangli Island, observing Lu Ping's technique. It was just that no matter how hard they tried, they could not understand what kind of remarkable power Lu Ping was going to use. Because of Lu Ping's technique, Huangli Island had closed its market and the teleportation portals. Hence, there were only 100 or so people who had obtained residency rights on Huangli Island. Most of these people had passed Jinling's inspection, and most of them belonged to Jinling's outer sect disciples, affiliated clans, powers, and a portion of non-affiliated adepts. Expanding the surface area of an island was a top-notch remarkable technique. Even a normal Dharma adept would find it difficult to use it. Hence, the people on the island naturally did not want to miss out on such a grand occasion. Just as Lu Ping was activating the entire magic array, causing the entire Huangli Island to shake, a black flag suddenly rose above Lu Ping's head. The black water-controlling flag expanded with the wind until it was at least 10 feet long and 9 feet wide. The huge flag fluttered in the wind. One after another, black ripples spread out from the surface of the water-controlling flag, spreading out towards the sea around Huangli Island. As the ripples entered the sea, the surface of the sea was instantly set off layer after layer of waves. These waves piled up higher and higher, and finally retreated towards the sea with Huangli Island as the center, creating huge waves that grew taller and taller. As the seawater flowed in all directions, the surface of Huangli Island that was close to the sea was completely exposed. The waves were pushed away by the ripples of the water-controlling flag for nearly 3 miles, causing the surface area of Huangli Island to increase by 6 miles in an instant. What is Perfected Lu doing now? Is he going to drain all the seawater around Huangli Island? But once he stops the technique, won't the seawater that he drained flow back into the island? Although the surrounding cultivators were shocked that Lu Ping was able to push away the seawater around Huangli Island by 3 miles with the help of the formation and his own power, they still had no idea what method Lu Ping was going to use to expand the area of Huangli Island. However, many of them looked at the huge flag fluttering in the wind above Lu Ping's head and said enviously, "This flag is obviously just a spiritual magical treasure, but I never expected it to have such power." Just when everyone was feeling puzzled, a huge 9th-grade lotus suddenly bloomed under Lu Ping's feet. Countless milky white rays of light condensed and spread out in all directions along with the blooming of the lotus, eventually forming 12 white beams of light that shone evenly in 12 directions around Huangli Island. The entire Huangli Island suddenly shook. A few shops on the island that were not very sturdy also collapsed due to the shaking of the island. Even though these shops were originally protected by their own enchantment arrays, they could not resist the shaking of Huangli Island. At this time, how could Lu Ping still care about the collapsed shops? This was the critical moment for him to perform the Great Sea and Mulberry Fields, and also the moment for him to demonstrate his power to the entire cultivation world of the North Sea. Wave after wave of bluish-purple energy surged towards the white jade lotus under Lu Ping's feet. On the petals of the white jade lotus, one after another, mysterious runes flickered with a mysterious luster as Lu Ping's energy surged. Gradually, a huge formation was formed on the surface of the lotus. 12 beams of light shot out from the lotus, resonating with the 12 gentian pearls that Lu Ping had set up on the island. Finally, Lu Ping's art of mulberry fields was unleashed to the extreme. Lu Ping pushed his palm outwards and shouted, "Calm the sea." The seawater that had been pushed 3 miles away by the water-controlling flag suddenly stopped flowing back, forming a vertical wall of water 3 miles away from Huangli Island. From afar, it looked as if the entire North Sea had become a sea on the ground. The cultivators who were floating in the air and watching Lu Ping's technique exclaimed in unison. The seawater that had been pushed away by Lu Ping was now hundreds of millions of kilograms in weight, but it was easily blocked by Lu Ping for several miles. However, Lu Ping's technique was far more than that. Both of his hands made several hand seals in succession, and he suddenly shouted, "Suppress the mountain." The 12 beams of light shot out from the white jade lotus that were secretly connected to the elemental time beads suddenly tightened. The originally thigh-thick beams of light shrank to the thickness of an arm, like a rope that had been pulled taut. Lu Ping raised both of his hands, seemingly using all of his strength at this moment. The entire Huangli Island shook for the 3rd time. However, the shaking this time was different from the previous 2 times. It was as if the entire Huangli Island had been bound together with the 12 beams of light that had been shot out by the white jade lotus. "It's rising. It's rising. Huangli Island is slowly rising." The surrounding cultivators with keen eyesight immediately noticed something. The entire Huangli Island seemed to be slowly rising along with Lu Ping's collapse. "Look! The land that was originally submerged by the seawater outside of Huangli Island is also rising. I understand now, I understand now. Reverend Xianping is not moving the mountains and filling the seas, bringing islands and land from other places to increase the size of Huangli Island. Instead, he is directly raising the entire Huangli Island, exposing the land that was originally submerged under the sea." I'm afraid everyone has already understood by now. There's no need for you to say it. Lu Ping's changing the seas into mulberry fields' great divine ability, with the help of the grand formation and the natal gentian array, lasted for a total of 6 hours before it ended. At this time, the surface of the entire Huangli Island had extended to a distance of 3 li, just barely reaching the sea level. The circumference of the entire Huangli Island had increased by 6 li. At this time, no one doubted that Lu Ping had the divine ability to expand the area of Huangli Island. The grand scene of Lu Ping executing the changing the seas into mulberry fields technique had already spread across the entire North Sea. Almost all the cultivators were discussing this new divine ability that Lu Ping had displayed. After resting for 3 days, Lu Ping once again borrowed the Grand Formation to expand the area of Huangli Island. However, this time, he only managed to expand the circumference of the island by 5 li. Thus, every 3 days, Lu Ping would execute the changing the seas into mulberry fields technique. Although the effect was constantly weakening, the entire Huangli Island was still continuously expanding. When he finished executing the changing the seas into mulberry fields technique for the 6th time, the Grand Formation laid down by Hu Lili finally collapsed. The circumference of Huangli Island had expanded by another li. Lu Ping's divine ability to expand the area of Huangli Island had finally come to an end. After executing the divine ability 6 times in a row, the entire Huangli Island had expanded from its original 30 to 40 li radius to nearly 60 li. It had already exceeded the limit of at least 50 li for a small island. It had truly become a small island. Soon, the name of the new divine ability that Lu Ping executed, the changing the seas into mulberry fields technique, was known by all the cultivators of the North Sea. Many cultivators were trying to find out the origin of this divine ability, including many cultivators from the Jinling sect. Naturally, the cultivators of the North Sea cultivated water-type cultivation techniques the most. However, one of the most scarce resources was land. Therefore, almost all the sects and forces of the North Sea were trying to expand the area of the islands they occupied. In the past, only those who had mastered the moving the mountains and filling the seas divine ability could expand the area of the islands. Only now did the North Sea cultivators realize that cultivators who cultivated water-type cultivation techniques could also expand the area of the islands. Additionally, the cultivators from the overseas regions had no shortage of cultivators who cultivated water-type cultivation techniques. If this cultivation technique could spread, the size of the islands in the North Sea would greatly increase. Additionally, the situation of the North Sea suffering from a lack of cultivation resources would be alleviated to a certain extent. Just when the various sects of the North Sea and the Jinling sect sent out cultivators to ask enlightened Lu Xianping if he could pass down the inheritance of this divine ability, news came from Huangli Island that enlightened Lu Xianping had gone into secluded cultivation. Chapter 862. The Na Chuan Cauldron, the silver spirit flame, the clear wood jade fruit, and an incense burner that was quietly burning with calming soul incense. The fragrance emitted from the incense burner could help a cultivator calm down and adjust his or her body to its best state. After nearly a month of Lu Ping's vast seas of mulberry field scripture, Huangli Island had successfully expanded into a small island. At this time, Huangli Island could be said to be very lively. Although under Hu Lili's command, the market, cave residences, spirit fields, and port on Huangli Island had been rebuilt, the number of cultivators that came in after Huangli Island was reopened still exceeded Hu Lili and the others' expectations. However, this now did not affect Lu Ping, who was in the secret chamber of the cave residences. The clear wood jade fruit had been in Lu Ping's possession for decades. In order to maximize the effect of this spirit fruit, Lu Ping had not refined it into the clear wood jade pill. At this time, Lu Ping's cultivation had successfully advanced to the 9th stage of the core forging stage. This was the time when the clear wood jade pill could be used to its greatest effect. Moreover, on Huangli Island, Lu Ping did not have to worry about anyone coming to disturb him. Although the lushwood pure jade pellets were avatar-level medicinal pellets, 1 lushwood pure jade fruit could only be used to concoct 3 lushwood pure jade pellets, which was different from the usual amount of 10 medicinal pellets in a cauldron. Hence, Lu Ping hoped to concoct all 3 lushwood pure jade pellets. If it was before, it would be a little difficult for Lu Ping to completely refine the clear wood jade fruit into 3 elixirs. However, after Lu Ping obtained the silver spirit flame, it made Lu Ping much more confident. Although the silver spirit flame of the mid-grade heaven level made the process of refining elixirs twice as long, and the alchemist's inner yuan was greatly consumed compared to other heaven and earth spirit flames, its delicate and gentle fire also greatly increased the success rate of refining elixirs. At this time, the secret room was already filled with the fragrance of pills. He had been operating the pill furnace and adjusting the temperature of the spirit flames for several days straight. His divine sense was constantly paying attention to the situation inside the pill furnace. If it was any other alchemist, this method of alchemy would simply be a form of torture. However, for Lu Ping, other than the prolonged alchemy time and some mental exhaustion, everything else was not a problem. At this time, it was the last moment before the pills came out of the cauldron. The 3 ashwood clear jade pills had already begun the final process of condensing in the cauldron. Outside the cave, Hu Lili was accompanying an old man, waiting for Lu Ping to come out of seclusion. The old man took Hu Lili's spiritual tea and took a sip. He said, "Lass, your spiritual tea is the best. My family's spiritual tea is like washing a pot of water." Hu Lili smiled and said, "This spiritual tea is usually Brother Xian Ping's favorite. I rarely drink it, so there's still quite a lot left. Since you like it, I'll make a bag for you later." The old man's eyes lit up and he said, "That's great. The old man has never been pretentious with you. I've long heard that the spiritual tea here is the best in our sect. It really does live up to its reputation." As soon as the old man finished speaking, a thick fragrance of elixirs had already filled the entire cave. The old man's eyes lit up and his nose sniffed slightly. He said, "Wow, it's a Dharma level elixir, and it looks like it's of a very high level. Finally, it's time to condense the elixir. It's just that this alchemy process is taking too long." If it weren't for the fragrance, the old man would have thought that this kid was purposely hiding from the old man, who Lily knew that the old man in front of her was an expert in alchemy. Just by the smell of the elixir, he could understand a lot about Lu Ping's alchemy process. She smiled and said, "You really are an expert in alchemy in our sect. It looks like you're about to become our sect's 4th alchemy grandmaster. If that's the case, I wouldn't dare to neglect you." The old man had an uncertain expression on his face. He said, "In front of your little lover, the old man wouldn't dare to be arrogant. He is our sect's true alchemy grandmaster. His position in the sect is much higher than mine." Just then, the smell of elixirs in the cave changed slightly. The old man grunted, as if he was suspicious of something. He turned around and looked in the direction of Lu Ping's secret room. Hu Lili was worried about Lu Ping. Seeing the old man like this, she quickly asked, "Uncle Xianyue, is there something wrong?" Xianyue Jinren was one of the oldest alchemy grandmasters in Jinling. He wasn't a disciple of Tianqin Laozu, but his alchemy skills were just below Tianqin Laozu's. In fact, he was even better than Tianqin Laozu's other disciples. Among the several alchemy grandmasters in Jinling, besides Lu Ping and Xianyue Jinren, the others were all disciples or grand disciples of Tianqin Laozu. However, it was undeniable that whether it was Xianyue Jinren or Lu Ping himself, both had received careful guidance from Tianqin Laozu. Tianqin Laozu spared no effort in guiding the younger generation. His prestige in Jinling was extremely high. Because of this, the status of the Dan Pavilion in Jinling had become extremely high. Originally, Xianyue Jinren was the most promising cultivator in Jinling to become an alchemy grandmaster after Tianqin Laozu. However, after the emergence of Lu Ping, Xianyue Jinren had finally touched the boundary of the grandmaster realm. Xianyue Jinren shook his head with some doubts and said, "The old man is also not too clear. Just now, it seems that martial nephew Xianyue encountered some trouble at the last moment of opening the furnace, but now it seems that this trouble has been solved by martial nephew Xianyue. After all, martial nephew Xianyue Jinren's alchemy skills are above the old man." Perhaps the old man guessed wrongly. Hu Lili knew what kind of pill Lu Ping was refining, so she naturally knew the preciousness of the azure wood clear jade pill. Only when the azure wood clear jade fruit was completely refined into 3 azure wood clear jade pills, would the cultivator be able to display the best effect after taking it. Inside the secret chamber, Lu Ping's taut heartstrings finally relaxed a little. He had almost failed at the last step. Lu Ping had never thought that he would actually encounter such a rare and strange situation like a spiritual chi furnace explosion. Spiritual chi furnace explosion, in layman's terms, was when there was an excess of spiritual chi in the alchemy furnace, causing the medicinal efficacies of the pills in the alchemy furnace to expand until they were unable to condense and finally exploded. This kind of spiritual chi furnace explosion not only lost the pills in the alchemy furnace, but also because the power of the furnace explosion was too great, the alchemy furnace itself would also suffer serious damage, and even the alchemy master himself would be affected. Usually, when an alchemy master was refining pills, they would often worry about the concentration of spiritual chi in the alchemy furnace being insufficient. In order to smoothly refine pills, they would not hesitate to crush high-grade spirit stones, or even best-grade spirit stones, with the help of the spiritual chi released by the explosion of spirit stones, to make up for the lack of spiritual chi in the alchemy furnace. The spiritual explosion secret technique that Lu Ping had mastered for alchemy was to deal with this kind of sudden situation. However, the spiritual chi furnace explosion was the exact opposite. It was because there was too much spiritual chi in the alchemy furnace, which was a rare occurrence in the process of refining pills. The reason why Lu Ping had encountered such a situation this time was because the spirit meridian in the secret chamber had suddenly merged and condensed. Hu Lili had set up a spirit fusion spell that could shorten the process of the 9 spirit gathering pearls merging into the spirit meridian. Just as Lu Ping was at the final stage of condensing the spirit meridian, 2 of the spirit gathering pearls in the spirit meridian had coincidentally merged into the spirit meridian at the same time, causing the concentration of spiritual chi in the spirit meridian to increase by 2 levels. The spirit meridian in the spirit meridian, which was placed in the middle of the spirit meridian, was so concentrated that it could explode at any time. If Lu Ping had not sensed that something was wrong at the first moment and opened the alchemy furnace to release the excess spiritual chi, used his divine will to prevent the spirit meridian from escaping, and boldly used the spiritual explosion secret technique to maintain the balance of spiritual chi in the alchemy furnace, these 3 ebony jade pills that would make even Dharma adepts jealous would have turned into a pile of ashes. Lu Ping carefully placed the 3 ebony jade pills into the jade essence bottle. Only then did Lu Ping heave a sigh of relief. When he left the secret chamber, he saw Venerable Xianyue and Hu Lili waiting in the cave. Lu Ping paused and felt a little suspicious. However, he quickly smiled and said, "So it's Uncle Xianyue, you are a rare guest." Venerable Xianyue saw Lu Ping's expression and smiled. "Old man is not a rare guest, but an uninvited guest. The Elixir Pavilion has some matters to trouble nephew Xianyue." "What's wrong? Did you encounter something wrong when you opened the alchemy furnace just now?" Lu Ping looked at Venerable Xianyue in surprise. To be able to sense the situation just now and accurately determine that the alchemy furnace was opened, it meant that Venerable Xianyue's alchemy skills were at least at the level of a half-step grandmaster. Of course, if he was a real grandmaster, he would probably say that Lu Ping had encountered a spiritual chi furnace explosion. In that case, Venerable Xianyue was obviously not a grandmaster. However, Lu Ping still congratulated him. "Uncle, you are only 1 step away from the grandmaster level. Congratulations." After saying this, Lu Ping smiled bitterly and said, "Speaking of which, it's really rare. I actually encountered a spiritual chi furnace explosion." Enlightened Master Xian Yu looked at Lu Ping strangely. Then, he chuckled and said, "Other alchemists are afraid that the cauldron won't have enough spiritual energy, so they keep throwing crushed spirit stones into the cauldron. But martial nephew, your cauldron is filled with so much spiritual energy that it's about to explode. Hee, I've long heard that Huangli Island is about to become a paradise. If this news spreads out, your Huangli Island will be in the limelight again." The 2 of them chatted for a while. Hu Lili used Huangli Island as an excuse to leave first. Venerable Xianyue then said, "This time, I hope that nephew can preside over the Elixir Pavilion's alchemy exam and serve as the chief examiner." Lu Ping was surprised and said, "How can this be? Our sect's alchemy exam has always been presided over by Fornak's ancestor." How can it be a junior like nephew's turn to embarrass himself? Venerable Xianyue pointed at Lu Ping and laughed, "Nephew, you are being unreasonable. You are a grandmaster alchemist, how can you not be the chief examiner?" Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "It is not that this disciple is being unreasonable. Even if Fornak's ancestor is not willing to preside over this exam, there is still Tianqin martial ant. No matter what, it is not my turn to be the chief examiner. Moreover, other than the chief examiner, there are at least 4 other examiners. Presumably, Martial Ant and the other alchemy grandmasters are all examiners. This disciple is a junior after all. If I become the chief examiner, it would be too childish. It is better not to be the chief examiner." Chapter 863. Taoist Master Xianyu sternly said, "Martial nephew, don't even think about evading. Not to mention that Tianqin is in closed-door cultivation, the main examiner was appointed by Master Tianlu. Even if Martial nephew were to be the main examiner, would anyone have any objections? The Pill Pavilion's examination does not look at one's qualifications, but rather one's alchemy skills. With your status as a Grandmaster alchemist, who in the Pill Pavilion would dare say no?" Taoist Xianyu happily took a bag of spirit tea cultivated by Lu Ping and left Huangli Island. In the end, Lu Ping couldn't shirk the appointment of the main examiner. Lu Ping pondered for a moment, then shook his hand and released the 3 spirits. As soon as he returned to Huangli Island, Lu Ping wouldn't restrain his spirit pets. De Bao was already nowhere to be found. It was said that he was going to hold an underground auction on Huangli Island. De Bao was famous on Huangli Island. He had followed Lu Ping through life and death many times, so he didn't lack treasures. However, after decades of development, the cultivators on Huangli Island were no longer limited to blood condensation and early core forging cultivators. Many mid and late core forging cultivators also frequented Huangli Island. Because the teleportation formation on Huangli Island was very strict, most of the mid and late core forging cultivators were from Zhenling and Zhenling's forces. De Bao wanted to open the auction, but with his early core forging cultivation, he was far from being able to hold the fort. Thus, De Bao tricked Lu Qin into going. Lu Qiner's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th layer of core forging. Samling was gradually catching up to her, but she was a wind and fire dual cultivator, so her strength wasn't much weaker than Samling's. She could even fight against 8th or 9th layer core forging cultivators, so she could help De Bao. Dague, on the other hand, had a calm temperament. After returning to Huangli Island, he slept in the spring in Lu Ping's cave residence. At the same time, he looked after the willing fish eggs that Lu Ping had placed in the spring to nourish. In the beginning, the 3 of them appeared as Lu Ping's mounts and spiritual pets. De Bao and De Gui weren't high-grade spiritual beasts, and although Lu Qin was talented, she was still enlightened Master Lu Xuanping's identity, so no one dared to covet her. The only ones that gave Lu Ping a headache were the Amethyst Wasp King Lu Xilan, Peach Tree Lu Taohua, and Samling. These 5's identities couldn't be revealed in front of others. Otherwise, it would bring great trouble for Lu Ping. Fortunately, Lu Ping still had 3 demon transformation chakrams on him. Therefore, Lu Ping distributed the 3 demon transformation chakrams and let them take turns to use them. Everyone had the opportunity to play on Huangli Island. Just leave it to us. Lu Ping nodded and handed the remaining demon transformation bracelet to Lu Bai. He said, "If there is something that requires your help, don't forget to take back the demon transformation bracelet from Peach Blossom and Zilan." Outside the cave, Lu Ping released a sound-transmitting glyph. Coincidentally, he saw Hu Lili returning to the cave. He told Hu Lili that he was going to be the chief examiner of the Pill Pavilion. Hu Lili frowned and said, "Our sex cultivation resources were originally in the hands of Fa Xiang Laozu. Except for some important things, Fa Xiang Laozu can use most of the cultivation resources at will. Now that the sect leader has gathered power, even Fa Xiang Laozu can't use these cultivation resources at will. Seeing that Lu Ping was deep in thought, Hu Lili straightforwardly said, "The reason why the Pellet Pavilion wants you to be the chief examiner this time, besides the fact that you are indeed a suitable candidate, isn't it also because the Sky Cauldron ancestor hopes that you can obtain a better reward from the sect master?" Lu Ping was stunned for a moment before he said, "That's right. The sect will naturally reward the top few cultivators in the main alchemy exam. Since I'm the main examiner, the rewards can't be too shabby. Otherwise, wouldn't I, the water sword immortal, lose face? In that case, I can only hope that teacher can give me some decent treasures from the sect. This plan is not bad. No wonder Fornax Laozu and Tianqin Laozu are not willing to be the chief examiner. Fornax Laozu is master's elder and Tianqin martial uncle will not bow to master. In this case, the chief examiner of the Pill Pavilion can only be me." In a flash of light, sixth brother Lei had already arrived in front of the cave dwelling. When he saw Lu Ping and Hu Lili talking, he deliberately stopped at a distance and said loudly, "Ladies, I'm going over now. Is it convenient?" Hu Lili's face turned red and she fiercely glared at him before walking into the cave. Only then did sixth brother Lei walk over to Lu Ping with a smile. "Brother Lei, I may have to go out for a period of time. Huangli Island will not have any experts guarding it. I'll have to trouble Brother Lei to watch over Huangli Island during this period." Sixth brother Lei nodded and said, "Don't worry." When Lu Ping was traveling in the Central Plains, he received a lot of help from his good friends in the sect on Huangli Island. However, as the cultivation of these good friends increased, they were now the core strength of the sect and would often be assigned tasks by the sect. Everyone had their own things to do and could not put all of their efforts on Huangli Island. After Tian Shu Laozu took over Huangli Island, he plotted to seize control of the island. Although his good friends could not confront him directly because they were from the same sect, they secretly supported him. Otherwise, with Hu Lili alone, she might not even be able to protect Lu Ping's cave. Lu Ping originally wanted to look for Chen Lian to refine and upgrade a few of his transcendent artifacts. However, Chen Lian was no longer on Huangli Island. His shop was still open and there was a blood condensation realm cultivator working there. It was said that this cultivator was Chen Lian's disciple. This disciple only knew that Chen Lian had returned to Tianling Mountain for a few years. As for why he went back, this disciple did not know. Lu Ping remembered that he heard that Tianjiang Laozu had spent all of his energy on repairing a damaged artifact that martial uncle Tian Lin brought back from the Ying Tian dojo. Even the matters of the refining hall were handed over to his disciple. If Lu Ping's guess was right, this artifact should be Ying Tian sect's Fei Tian Laozu's personal spiritual treasure, the mountain-splitting axe. This was a spiritual treasure that had gone through 2 lightning tribulations. It could be said to be Jinling's biggest gain in the Ying Tian dojo. One had to know that Lu Ping had heard from his teacher that in the whole of Jinling, there was only one spiritual treasure that had gone through 2 calamities, which was in the hands of Tian Xiang Laozu. It was passed down from Tian Shen Laozu and was the true treasure of Jinling. The other 3 spiritual treasures that had gone through 1 calamity were in the hands of Tian Fan, Tian Shui, and Tian Ling Laozu respectively. Even the other mid-Dharma stage Laozu, Tian Kong Laozu, did not have a spiritual treasure. After obtaining the mountain-splitting axe this time, even though the spiritual treasure itself was severely damaged, it still attracted the attention of the few Laozu of the sect. Tian Xiang Laozu even requested Tian Jiang Laozu to repair this spiritual treasure at all costs. Of course, they did not know that Lu Ping had obtained Fei Tian Laozu's pure yang soul. Compared to the pure yang soul, this mountain-splitting axe was far inferior. Chen Lian had been called to the weapon refining hall for many years and had not returned to Huangli Island. Obviously, it was because of this mountain-splitting axe. Moreover, Tian Jiang Laozu had brought Chen Lian along while he was repairing this treasure. It could be seen that Chen Lian's craftsmanship had reached a higher level and had entered the eyes of Tianjiang Laozu. Without a choice, Lu Ping could only return to Tianling Mountain and go to the weapon refining hall to look for Chen Lian. However, just as Lu Ping came out from the teleportation device, he heard from his teacher that he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chu Tiancheng Laozu seemed to have some urgent matters to attend to and had brought his disciple, Xian Yongzhenren, back to the Central Plains in a hurry. Chapter 864. Lu Tianling Laozu was chatting with spiritual master Xian Sen in the hall of Zhonghua Hua. Lu Ping could only wait in the hall. So, although the scale of Mara's appearance on Frost Island is not small, it is not a critical moment. The sects should still be able to deal with it. Lu Tianling Laozu pondered for a moment before asking spiritual master Xian Sen who was beside him. Spiritual Master Xian Sen was currently a peak core forging cultivator with a 7th grade golden core. After Tian Shu Laozu, Zhenling was the second-generation disciple with the highest chance of becoming a Dharma adept. Before this, among Zhenling's second-generation disciples, there was Spiritual Master Xian Su who also had a high chance of becoming a Dharma adept. Lu Ping had seen this Spiritual Master Xian Su on Jingzha Island before. Unfortunately, this spiritual master Xian Su did not manage to break through at the last moment after merging with a heaven-rank low-grade spirit object. He only managed to form a 6th grade golden core and lost the qualification to become a Dharma adept. Spiritual Master Xian Sen nodded and said, "That is indeed what Martial Aunt Tian Shui said." She said that although the calamity of Mara has already descended, up until now, the calamity of Mara in the North Sea cultivation world is not as big as the previous calamity of Mara. Martial Aunt Tian Shui means that although the situation is a little strange, we must not let our guard down. Lu Tianling Laozu said, "Martial Aunt Tian Shui is right. In that case, send 20 of our sect's 3rd-generation disciples who have advanced to the core forging stage to listen to Martial Aunt Tian Shui's orders. They will also be able to be useful when the calamity of Mara fully erupts in the future." Taoist Master Xian Sen smiled and said, "Sect head's senior sister has thought things through thoroughly. Junior brother will handle this matter as soon as I go down." Coincidentally, Martial Aunt Tian Shui has been studying the art of talismans for the past few days. There are many things that she is unwilling to do personally. In this case, it is exactly what she wants. When Lu Ping heard that Tian Shui Laozu was studying the art of talismans on Frost Island, he immediately recalled the talisman inheritance that he had obtained from the Yingtian dojo. Inside the inheritance, it recorded the complete inheritance of the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman. To Tian Shui Laozu, the #1 expert in the art of Zhenling talismans, this was a great attraction. It could be assumed that Tian Shui Laozu was currently studying that inheritance. It looks like I'll have to pay a visit to Senior Grand Aunt Tian Shui on Frost Island after I'm done with the Pill Pavilion. Lu Ping laughed inwardly. After Taoist Master Xian Sen left, Lu Ping went up to greet his master with a smile on his face. Tianling Laozu glanced at him and said, "Our sect's Pill Pavilion head has always been presided over by the sect's Pill Pavilion head. Senior Uncle Fornax doesn't want to be the main examiner, nor did he let your senior Aunt Tian Qin do it. Instead, he chose you to be the main examiner. What a great honor. Are you here to ask for my help today?" Lu Ping didn't feel embarrassed even though his teacher had seen through his intentions. He smiled and said, "This disciple can't refuse such great kindness. I'm forced to do something beyond my abilities, so I can only come and find teacher to discuss the rules." Lu Tianling Laozu smiled and said, "You don't need to come and find me for this. Although the sect head is in charge of all the sect's affairs, there are still precedents for the Pill Pavilion head examination. You just need to follow the usual practice and take out a prize from the Pill Pavilion's treasury." Lu Ping smiled bitterly and said, "I'll let teacher know that our sect has been prospering under teacher's leadership these past few years. The number of new alchemists in the Pill Pavilion is also higher than in the previous exams. If we still follow the usual practice, it will inevitably hurt the disciples' desire to improve their alchemy. Therefore, I hope that teacher can expand the scope of the prizes and increase the quality of the prizes. This will also give the disciples in the Pill Pavilion something to look forward to and work hard to improve their alchemy skills. Lu Tianling Laozu said directly, "You're only thinking about expanding the scope of the prizes, but you've forgotten that you're still my disciple. If I agree to your request so easily, what will others say?" Lu Ping was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect this. The Pill Pavilion head examination, which originally had precedence, had expanded the scope of the prizes and increased the quality of the prizes when it came to Lu Ping. In the eyes of outsiders, it was naturally to give face to spiritual master Lu Xianping. However, in the eyes of those with ulterior motives, it would seem that the heavenly spirit sect head was biased towards his own disciple and benefiting himself at the expense of the sect. Lu Tianling Laozu saw the troubled expression on Lu Ping's face and couldn't help but smile. "Do you know that in addition to the sect's prizes, the examiners also have to give prizes to the outstanding disciples in the exam?" Lu Ping's expression became very interesting. He said regretfully, "This disciple has been tricked again." So they didn't want this disciple to ask for treasures from teacher. They wanted to extort some treasures from this disciple. Lu Tianling Laozu could see that Lu Ping had misunderstood him a little, but it wasn't like the Pill Pavilion didn't have any intentions of pushing this disciple to the position of examiner. So, he smiled and said, "You're not wrong to say that." However, the Pill Pavilion head examination has always been like this. Fornak's master has been presiding over it for hundreds of years, and he has given up countless treasures on him. This is also why Uncle Master Fornax is highly respected in our sect. When it comes to helping the younger generation advance, Uncle Master Fornax has always spared no effort. I believe you've experienced this yourself. Lu Ping nodded. It was undeniable that after his talent in alchemy was discovered by Fornax Laozu, even though Lu Ping had always been outside of the Pill Pavilion, Fornax Laozu had never had any prejudice against Lu Ping. The reason why Lu Ping's alchemy skills had improved so quickly was largely due to Fornax Laozu's wholehearted guidance and support. In the past Pill Pavilion head examination, Fornax Laozu would often pay out of his own pocket to reward the winning disciple in addition to the rewards given out by the sect. Fornax Laozu had been presiding over the Pill Pavilion for hundreds of years, and had conducted more than 10 exams. Who knew how many treasures he had given out for the sect? Lu Tianling Laozu continued, as examiners, the other master alchemists of the sect would often take out their own rewards along with the main examiner. Generally speaking, the quality of the rewards would naturally be lower than the main examiners, but of course, it wouldn't be too low. After all, the main examiner's reward was given to the first-place disciple, so the other examiner's rewards would also be given to the second, third, and fourth-ranked disciples according to their quality. If the rewards were too low, then they would lose a lot of face. Lu Ping had already gradually figured out what was going on from Lu Tianling Laozu's words. This time, he was the main examiner. Even though it was Fornax Laozu who had personally appointed him, there might still be people scheming behind his back. Although Lu Ping could not avoid losing money once, as long as the rewards he took out were of high quality, the other examiners would also have to follow suit and lose money. Lu Ping was still very confident in his own net worth. Things that were of high quality in the eyes of others might not necessarily be that important to Lu Ping. However, if others were to take out rewards that were not that much lower than his own, then he would definitely feel the pinch. After receiving his teacher's instructions, Lu Ping walked out of the palace of Zhonghua in a refreshed manner and headed straight for the Pill Pavilion. At this time, the news that Lu Ping had been personally appointed by Fornax Laozu to be the main examiner of the Pill Pavilion had already spread throughout the entire Pill Pavilion. Even the entire Zhenling was talking about it. This time, the Pill Pavilion's examination could be said to be the biggest in Zhenling's history. Not only was the number of participants the highest, but the level of the alchemists was also the highest. It was said that there were already a few alchemists who planned to refine pills for the core forging stage during the examination, establishing their status as master alchemists in one fell swoop. One had to know that currently, the entire Jinling only had 3 Grandmaster Alchemists and 5 Master Alchemists. For the currently rising Jinling, every additional Master Alchemist was a joyous event worthy of celebration. Currently, the entire Pill Pavilion was talking about the rewards for the examination. This examination had the highest number of participants, so did it mean that the scope of the rewards for the entire examination would be expanded? Did it mean that the individual rewards would also be increased? These were the main points of discussion in the Pill Pavilion. Of course, many cultivators in the Pill Pavilion were optimistic about this. They believed that Fornax Laozu had personally appointed enlightened Master Lu Xianping as the main examiner in order to obtain more rewards from Lu Tianling. After all, enlightened Master Lu was the last disciple of Lu Tianling Laozu, so it was only natural for him to favor enlightened Master Lu more. However, there were also cultivators who disapproved of this. They believed that Lu Tianling was now at a critical moment in his control of the sect. Many cultivators in the entire sect were paying attention, and Lu Laozu would definitely treat all the affairs of the sect equally. There was no reason for him to be biased. They believed that enlightened Master Lu would eventually choose to dilute the amount of individual rewards on top of the fixed rewards to expand the scope of the rewards. Not long after, Lu Ping announced in the Pill Pavilion that the total amount of rewards for this examination would increase due to the expansion of the scope of the rewards, but the total amount of individual rewards would not change much. The only difference was that the original reward for the sect would be expanded from the top 5 to the top 10, while the amount of rewards for the 6th to 10th place would be the same. When the news came, although the cultivators in Jinling were somewhat disappointed, it was still reasonable. After all, although Jinling was very prosperous now, it was still very tight on various aspects. It was not easy for enlightened Master Lu Xianping to obtain these rewards. At the same time, it could be seen that the sect leader was indeed selfless, treating even his youngest disciple equally. However, there was immediately another news from the Pill Pavilion. It was said that although the rewards for this examination were mediocre, the master examiners wanted to use this examination to motivate the alchemists in the sect. Therefore, the individual rewards for the examiners would definitely be extremely generous. Once this news was leaked, it immediately spread throughout the whole of Jinling. Almost all the alchemists in Jinling, including the various affiliated forces and families, were eager to get started. Everyone knew that the main examiner, enlightened Master Lu Xianping, was known as the treasure boy in the past, and the treasures he had could be said to be endless. Today, enlightened Master Lu Xianping was a ruthless character who could even beat up a Dharma manifestation cultivator. How could he be lacking in treasures? After hearing these rumors, Lu Ping just laughed it off. These rumors were obviously deliberately spread by the alchemists in the Pill Pavilion. This was to force Lu Ping to spend a lot of money, and it was not without the help of the alchemy masters. Lu Ping could not be bothered to argue with them. On the day of the examination, he would definitely make each and every one of them cut their own flesh with him. At that time, we will see who will suffer more. Lu Ping's light flashed and he had already arrived at the back mountain of the Pill Pavilion, in front of Fornax Laozu's cave. Although Lu Ping was in charge of the Pill Pavilion, Fornax Laozu was the master of the Pill Pavilion after all. Something still had to be done by him. Of course, this time, Lu Ping was also here to take advantage of the situation. Although Fornax Laozu could be said to have worked hard for the Pill Pavilion, Lu Ping would not fall into his trap for no reason. Chapter 865. When Lu Ping saw Fornax Laozu, the old man was sitting quietly in the cave, holding a paper book in his hand, trying to figure out something. Lu Ping saw that the Fornax Cauldron ancestor was ignoring him, but he didn't want to disturb him. But when he saw a small incense burner not far from the Fornax Cauldron ancestor, an idea popped up in his head. An elegant and lingering fragrance wafted out from the furnace. Fornax Laozu put down the book in his hand in surprise and asked Lu Ping, soul calming incense? Lu Ping quickly handed over a small box and said, Martial uncle is wise, this is the last of the 3 great incense, soul calming incense. Disciple was lucky enough to get a few pieces in the Middle Earth, I offer them to Martial uncle as a sign of filial piety. There were 3 pieces of soul calming incense in the small box. Fornax Laozu took it and put it aside. He glanced at Lu Ping and said, I heard that you gave your teacher 3 pieces of soul calming incense. Why did you drop a grade after getting the old man? Lu Ping was very embarrassed. He didn't know how this matter was known to the person in front of him, so he quickly said, Disciple only got a few pieces of soul calming incense in the Middle Earth. Soul calming incense is even rarer than soul calming incense. Disciple had no choice, I can't just give one. He didn't know that after Lu Ping gave Lu Tianling Laozu 3 pieces of soul calming incense and 3 pieces of soul calming incense, it caused a small storm among the Jinling Laozu. After Lu Tianling received the soul calming incense, he happily lit a small piece of soul calming incense in the hall of Zhonghua. However, he didn't expect Chu Tiancheng Laozu to return to the Middle Earth because of his battle with Lu Ping. He was in a hurry to bid farewell to Lu Tianling Laozu and just barged into the hall of Zhonghua. Elder Chu Tiancheng was, after all, a Dharma adept. He had traveled the central mainland for many years and had seen many things. With one look, he recognized that the fragrance wafting through the palace of Zhonghua was one of the 3 famous soul incenses in the training world, the soul-stabilizing incense. This time, the secret couldn't be kept any longer. The few Laozu and Jinling immediately knew that Lu Tianling Laozu had the soul-calming incense. Even Tian Shui Laozu, who was far away on Frost Island, and Tian Kong Laozu, who was on Huanyu Island, also sent a message to ask about the soul-calming incense. In the end, even Tian Xiang Laozu was alerted. Lu Tianling Laozu had no choice but to give up Lu Ping. However, he also secretly set up many ambushes for Lu Ping. Thanks to the incident with Tian Shu Laozu, the other Laozu in the sect didn't want to provoke Lu Ping too much. When they heard Lu Tianling Laozu say that Lu Ping didn't have many soul-calming incense on him, they believed him. After all, it was already very lucky for them to have a few of these rare treasures. If they knew that Lu Ping not only had dozens of soul-calming incense on him, but he also had a few lush soul-calming trees in the House of Gold, even Lu Tianling Laozu himself might not be able to hold himself back. Although the 3 soul-calming incense were rare in Lu Ping's eyes, he didn't cherish them to the point where he needed to alert the few Laozu in the sect. However, what he didn't know was that although the 3 soul-calming incense had the effect of nourishing the divine will, they were mostly used by the practitioners when they were training in seclusion or when they were trying to understand their techniques. However, the effect of the 3 soul-calming incense on Dharma adepts had been greatly underestimated by Lu Ping. After a practitioner entered the Dharma stage, it was difficult to take another step forward. The foundation of a Dharma adept was naturally on the Dharma stage. The 3 soul-calming incenses' effect on the Dharma stage far exceeded Lu Ping's expectations. Not only could it restore the vitality of the Dharma stage, but it could also strengthen the spirituality of the Dharma stage and promote the integration of the divine will and the Dharma stage. Although the 3 soul-calming incense could not directly increase the level of practice of a Dharma adept, the benefits it brought to the Dharma adept could only be gradually shown over time and was irreplaceable. Tianlu Laozu didn't think that Lu Ping was lying. It wasn't because of Tianling Laozu's explanation, but because Tianlu Laozu didn't believe that Lu Ping could have many soul-calming incense on him. Therefore, the 3 soul-calming incense that Lu Ping had brought were very valuable. After all, Tianlu Laozu also knew that no matter what, he could not compare to Tianling Laozu's position in Lu Ping's heart. Tianlu Laozu kept the 3 soul-calming incense and secretly decided that these 3 soul-calming incense must be used when he was in seclusion. If he lit them in the cave like Tianling, not only would it be a waste, but it would also attract other people. Perhaps these 3 soul-calming incense could not be kept. Tianlu Laozu kept the 3 soul-calming incense and looked at the smiling Lu Ping. He said, "Tell me, what do you want?" Lu Ping received the smile and said seriously, "I want a piece of sky hearthstone." Tianlu Laozu was shocked and slapped the small box in front of Lu Ping. He said, take it, take it. This soul-calming incense old man doesn't want it anymore." Lu Ping expected that Tianlu Laozu would refuse, but he didn't think that Tianlu Laozu would refuse so thoroughly. He couldn't help but ask with a smile, "Martial uncle, if this disciple knows the sky hearthstone correctly, there should be 3 pieces in the pill pavilion. It's not too much for this disciple to take one, right?" Your Na Chuan cauldron's quality will still not be able to be upgraded. But if the sky hearthstone isn't used, it's just a stone in the end. Even if it's priceless, what use can it have? Isn't it a waste to leave it in the pill pavilion's treasury? Tianlu Laozu snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Lu Ping thought for a while and said, "How about this disciple use that thing to exchange for it?" Tianlu Laozu snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Lu Ping thought for a while and said, "How about this disciple use that thing to exchange for it?" Tianlu Laozu glanced at Lu Ping and said, "What are you going to exchange for it?" Lu Ping gritted his teeth and stretched out his hand. A scarlet flame quietly jumped in his palm. Tianlu Laozu said in surprise, "You obtained a heaven stage spirit flame. You don't want this thing?" Then, Tianlu Laozu reacted and said, "Kid, you got a heaven stage spirit flame. You don't want this thing?" Lu Ping put the scarlet spirit flame in a jade box and pushed it in front of Tianlu Laozu. He said, "Martial uncle, this is a heaven stage spirit flame. The scarlet spirit flame is a spirit flame that's more suitable for alchemy. It's enough for a pill master to use until the Grand Master realm." The Fornax ancestor snorted angrily. "I've said before that the Fornax stone is extremely precious. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to exchange it for 3 heaven-class spirit items. You want to exchange it for a superior earth-class spirit fire?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "The sky hearthstone is rare, but its true value may not be worth 3 heaven stage spirit objects. Moreover, didn't this disciple give you 3 pieces of soul incense as a show of respect?" Seeing that Tianlu Laozu was about to explode again, Lu Ping hurriedly said, "Of course, the soul incense is a show of respect to you, so it doesn't count. However, this disciple has decided to spend a lot of money for the pill pavilion's head exam. Seeing that this disciple wants to contribute to the sect, Martial uncle, please be magnanimous and give the sky hearthstone to this disciple." Tianlu Laozu felt a headache coming on from Lu Ping's pestering. He helplessly waved his hand and said, get lost, get lost. The pill pavilion's treasures need your master's permission before you can borrow them. Moreover, the sky hearthstone is such a treasure. Don't bother the old man." Lu Ping was overjoyed. As long as Tianlu Laozu agreed, his master would absolutely not object. He smiled and said, "Then this disciple will leave." "Wait." Tianlu Laozu looked at the red spirit flame on the table and asked, "What kind of spirit flame do you use for alchemy now? If it's not convenient, you can use this red spirit flame first." Lu Ping was grateful in his heart, but his face was still smiling. He spread out his palm again, and the silver spirit flame burned like a quietly flowing river, giving people a very strange feeling. Silver spirit flame. You even managed to get your hands on such a good thing. Tianlu Laozu looked at the slowly fluctuating flame in Lu Ping's hand with a trace of envy in his eyes. Just as Lu Ping was about to leave Tianlu Laozu's cave, he suddenly heard Tianlu Laozu say behind him, "It's not easy to smelt the sky hearthstone. In our sect, other than the Na Chuan cauldron, I'm afraid no other pill furnace has the qualifications to upgrade it. You should take another sky hearthstone as a backup, just in case something unexpected happens." This time, Lu Ping sincerely bowed to Tianlu Laozu and said, Thank you, Laozu. Lu Ping saw that there was no one around, so he smiled and showed the sky hearthstone in front of Chen Lian. Then, he quickly put it away. Chen Lian's gaze suddenly became scorching hot. He said in a low voice, "Sky hearthstone. And there are 2 of them. Where did you get these treasures? Don't tell me that you've emptied out the pill pavilion. Be careful of Ancestor Tianjiang's wrath." Chen Lian immediately returned to normal. He pondered for a moment and said, "Even so, I'm not very confident. However, at least I can guarantee that if the upgrade fails, it won't cause any harm to the Na Chuan cauldron. However, you'd better give me the second precious restriction of the pill furnace so that I can study it in advance and prepare for it." Without saying anything, Lu Ping handed over a jade slip that recorded the precious restriction of the pill furnace to Chen Lian. However, this precious restriction was obtained by Tianqin Laozu at the Fantasy Spirit City's auction. Afterwards, Lu Ping copied it from her. There was still a precious restriction of the pill furnace on Lu Ping. Even Jinling didn't know about this precious restriction of the pill furnace. However, Lu Ping still wanted to leave this precious restriction for the Na Chuan cauldron in the future to see if there was any room for improvement. Lu Ping said with some worry, "There's no hurry now. You should first help Ancestor Tianjiang to repair the mountain-splitting axe. After this matter is completed, you can free up your hands to think about the pill furnace. I see that you've exhausted your energy. It's better to rest for a while." Chen Lian looked at Lu Ping in surprise and said, "You actually know about the mountain-splitting axe?" Seeing that Lu Ping smiled and didn't answer, Chen Lian didn't ask much. Instead, he said, "The precious restriction of the pill furnace is very important. These years, although I've been valued by Ancestor Tianjiang, I haven't received the inheritance of the precious restriction from him. You just passed it to me like this. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the sect?" Lu Ping laughed in spite of himself and said, "Who do you think will punish me?" Chen Lian suddenly understood. Under Lu Ping's surprised gaze, he actually burst out with vulgarities and said, "Damn it, you're now in existence on equal footing with my ancestor." Having said that, he ignored Lu Ping's gaze and directly said, "It's not a big problem to upgrade this spirit jade. I didn't expect that you would even be able to find such a rare object like the frightening spirit branch and condense the 4th precious restriction in one go. The nether water sword is a bit more difficult. Although you didn't find enough spiritual materials, you can just barely gather the leftover materials for repairing the mountain-splitting axe. However, the inheritance of the invisible sword technique is not complete. Without the last 3 spirit-nurturing level invisible restrictions, even if you upgrade the nether water sword, you won't be able to upgrade it to a spirit-nurturing artifact. As for the water-controlling flag, I'm afraid that it'll be even more difficult. The one who has the deepest understanding of this artifact is Ancestor. Once the matter of the mountain-splitting axe has come to an end, you should personally pay him a visit." Coming out of the refining hall, Lu Ping thought for a moment before he finally walked towards the back of Heaven's Spirit Mountain. At the back of Tianling Mountain, a gigantic pagoda had been erected without anyone noticing. About 20 years ago, the newly appointed sect master, Lu Tianling Laozu, abolished the punishment system of facing the wall in the sect. Disciples who should have been punished for making mistakes were thrown into this pagoda called the 8 scenic pavilions and suppressed there. The 8 scenic pavilions actually represented 8 types of punishment. For cultivators who made mistakes, it was a form of punishment, but it was also a form of training. However, this kind of training was relatively extreme, and the results were also relatively slow. So far, the disciple who had received the most severe punishment in Jinling was only suppressed by the 8 scenic pavilions for 5 years. The punishment in the 8 scenic pavilions only consisted of the 5 types of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. After this cultivator came out of the 8 scenic pavilions, he was originally a late-stage core forging cultivator in Jinling and could be considered an expert. But now, he was tortured to the point where he was on the verge of death. He had to recuperate in his own cave for another 10 years before he could fully recover. In total, this caused the cultivator to lose 15 years of cultivation. This result caused everyone in Jinling to keep quiet about the 8 scenic pavilions. However, after the cultivator recovered, he discovered that his body had improved a lot compared to before. But compared to the 15 years of cultivation that he had wasted, the gains did not make up for the losses. At the same time, the 8 scenic pavilions was also a training ground for Jinling. The 8 scenic pavilions was a treasure that was in between an ordinary magic treasure and a heavenly grotto heaven magic treasure. Each of the 8 floors could be transformed into a training ground. Under the operation of the formation and the guards of each floor, the training ground could be transformed into various training grounds to test the disciples who entered. Every year, Jinling would select a group of outstanding disciples who had met the qualifications to enter the 8 scenic pavilions for training. These disciples were all in the blood condensation realm. Moreover, Jinling would also allocate some cultivation resources to the various training grounds as a reward for the disciples who passed the training. Originally, every floor of the 8 scenic pavilions would have a heaven and earth spiritual item that acted as the eye of the formation. At the same time, it was closely related to the training grounds of the 8 scenic pavilions. However, when Lu Ping handed the 8 scenic pavilions to Tian Lin Laozu, he had already stored away the heaven and earth spiritual items inside. It was one thing for the 8 scenic pavilions to be requisitioned by the sect for so many years, but if Lu Ping were to add heaven and earth spiritual items to it, Lu Ping would not be so foolish. Just as Lu Ping was about to enter the 8 scenic pavilions, the space in front of him rippled. A spatial door opened, and a gentle breeze blew in. Lu Ping did not seem surprised. He straightened his body and bowed. Disciple greets Martial Uncle Tian Fan. Chapter 867. Tian Fan Laozu's appearance caused Lu Ping to stop in his tracks. You don't seem surprised by the old man's arrival. Yes. Patriarch Tian Fan and Lu Ping only exchanged a single word before falling silent. The two of them immediately fell into silence. After a while, Tian Fan Laozu sighed and said, "Old man thanks you for Tian Shu." Lu Ping said, "You're too kind, grand uncle. I've already tried my best." If there was someone else at the side, they would definitely be confused by the conversation between the two. However, Lu Ping knew that Tian Fan Laozu was thanking him because Lu Ping could have severely injured or even killed Tian Shu Laozu. All he needed was an excuse in a moment of desperation. However, Lu Ping had only knocked him down from the sky in the end. It could be said that he had spared his life, and at the same time, he had also shown everyone that his strength far surpassed Tian Shu Laozu's. Lu Ping said that he had already tried his best. In fact, he was saying that he was not willing to accept Tian Fan Laozu's favor. After all, this was a grudge between him and Tian Shu Laozu. At the same time, he was also trying to hide his own strength. Tian Fan Laozu also understood the meaning behind Lu Ping's words, but he did not say much about it. He only said to himself, "The future of the sect depends on you guys." Now, including Senior Tianxiang, the first generation of cultivators have already let go of the sect's control. We want to see how talented the second and third generation disciples are, and whether they can support Jinling's future. When Tian Fan Laozu saw Lu Ping's thoughtful expression, he smiled and said, "In this sect, it doesn't matter if it's the sect master or the balance of power. It's all about the inheritance of the sect. In the end, it's for the sake of the sect's future." Lu Ping nodded, but he heard Patriarch Tian Fan continue, "However, a sect can't have only one voice. There needs to be a restraining force. Only then can people have scruples and think about it. Only then can the plan be thorough and the decision feasible. don't you think so? Patriarch Tian Fan nodded, but Patriarch Tian Fan continued. Lu Ping thought for a while and said, if it's for the sake of the sect, I have nothing to say. Lu Ping did not refute Tian Fan Laozu, but he was pointing out that Tian Shu Laozu wanted to restrain the sect master not for the sake of the sect, but for his personal grudge. Tian Fan Laozu sighed and said, you're right. Tian Shu does have a personal grudge. This was the first time Tian Fan Laozu and Lu Ping had spoken so weakly. Tian Fan Laozu was silent for a while. When he saw that Lu Ping did not say anything, he continued, in a few days, the old man will go to the East Sea to guard Jingzha Island. I heard that you've established a force in the East Sea secret land. The old man will look for an opportunity to take care of it. Although Lu Ping was surprised by Tian Fan Laozu's goodwill, he had no choice but to accept it. Otherwise, he would really offend Tian Fan Laozu. Therefore, he could only say, thank you, Martial Granduncle. Tian Fan Laozu turned around and left. Lu Ping stood there for a long time, thinking about something. After a while, he smiled nonchalantly and entered the Baiying Tower with his head lowered. The Baiying Tower itself was a rather unique treasure. Out of the entire Baiying Tower's power, the quality of the Baiying Tower itself only accounted for 1/3 of its power. Out of the remaining half, the quality of the heaven and earth treasures placed on each floor would affect 1/3 of its power. The other 1/3 depended on the strength of each floor's guardian. When Lu Ping entered the first floor of the Baiying Tower, he saw a group of Blood Condensation Realm disciples training in the Illusion Realm. Late Blood Condensation Realm demonic beasts suddenly attacked them from all sorts of places, but they were all killed by the disciples. Lu Ping scanned the area with his divine sense and knew that the guardian of this floor was only a core forging cultivator who had just entered the core forging realm. Floating in the middle of the array formation beside him was a metal elemental mid-grade mystic class spirit item. Lu Ping was slightly surprised. Without alerting the guardian of the first floor, he went straight to the second floor. The guardian of the second floor was a 3rd-level core forging realm cultivator. Lu Ping found him slightly familiar, as if he was his classmate back in Zhenling Side Hall. However, the two of them weren't familiar with each other. This person was using a secret technique to activate a Mystic Class Heaven and Earth treasure. It was also a Mystic Class Heaven and Earth treasure. The Heaven and Earth treasures were used to test a few late Blood Condensation Realm cultivators. When Lu Ping entered the 3rd floor, he couldn't help but stare blankly. With a sweep of his divine sense, he saw a few late Blood Condensation Realm cultivators working together to defend against a half-step core forging realm demonic beast. What surprised Lu Ping wasn't that these cultivators could defend against the demonic beast, but that the person in charge of defending the demonic beast was only a 6th-level Blood Condensation Realm cultivator. Junior Brother Du, it's coming. It's coming. Block it. We must block it. If we block it, we're dead. Boom. He blocked it. Junior Brother Du blocked it. Quick, kill it. Don't let it break free. A moment later, the monstrous beast's body slowly disappeared, leaving behind a few medium-grade spirit stones on the ground, which could be considered as a reward for the trial disciples. Several cultivators divided the spirit stones among themselves, and the cultivator who blocked the monstrous beast's attack received 2 medium-grade spirit stones. Junior Brother Du, you're already a 6th-level Blood Condensation Realm cultivator. You're about to advance to the late Blood Condensation Realm. Why aren't you acknowledging a master yet? The few of them weren't in a hurry to start the new trial. Instead, they gathered together and chatted while recovering their true essence. That's right, Junior Brother Du, your Earth-type cultivation technique is so pure that it puts us late Blood Condensation Realm cultivators to shame. You were actually able to block an attack from a peak Blood Condensation Realm demonic beast. With this kind of cultivation, if you attend the apprenticeship ceremony, the Sex Enlightened Masters will definitely fight for you. Hee hee, you guys still don't know, right? I heard from my master that junior brother Du has already attracted the attention of the sect's third-generation enlightened masters. There are even a few martial uncles who want to take junior brother Du as a disciple. However, they're stopped by enlightened master Lu Xianyuan. No one can do it. Enlightened master Lu Xianyuan. Oh my god, is that true? He's a late core forging enlightened master, a famous expert among the sect's third-generation disciples. I heard that he's close friends with the water sword immortal, enlightened master Lu Xianping. Junior brother Du, don't tell me that enlightened master Lu has taken a fancy to you and is preparing to take you as a disciple? That makes sense. Enlightened master Lu Xuanyuan's master is Guotian Shan Laozu, and he already has an earth-type cultivation technique. Since you're also cultivating an earth-type cultivation technique, it'll be of great help to your future growth. But what's strange is, if that's the case, why doesn't enlightened master Lu Xianyuan take you as a disciple? Could it be that enlightened master Lu Xianyuan is going to be like enlightened master Lu Xianping, refusing to pass on his legacy to a disciple until now? Junior brother Du's expression was originally calm. Only when he heard the words water sword immortal, Lu Xianping, did his expression brighten a little. When Lu Xuanping's name was mentioned, the atmosphere of the group of disciples was clearly stirred up. Have you heard? That Sword Azura went to Frost Island again. Really? That Wang Qi who wanted to become enlightened master Lu Xuanping's disciple, the one who once killed a core forging Azura, and is only one step away from entering the core forging realm? Didn't he always follow enlightened master sword demon Du Xianfeng around the North Sea to challenge others? Why did he go to Frost Island again? It's said that he's about to enter the core forging realm. This time, he didn't even pay a visit to enlightened master Lu Xianping when he returned to the North Sea. Other than him, it's said that there's another alchemist in the Pill Pavilion called Tianyu. He still hasn't taken enlightened master Lu Xianping as a disciple. Many people in the Pill Pavilion say that he also wants to become enlightened master Lu Xuanping's disciple. It's just that he hasn't admitted it himself, so it's just a guess. Junior brother Du, don't tell me you also want to become enlightened master Lu Xuanping's disciple? Ha ha ha, Lu Ping chuckled and waved his sleeve in the direction of the group. The scenery around them changed. A gust of evil wind blew, and a fierce tiger with white forehead and eyes that had reached the core forging realm jumped out of the forest with a roar. It stared at them like a tiger watching its prey. Oh no, why did the scene suddenly change? We haven't rested enough. Oh no, how did this happen? This tiger demon is actually at the core forging realm. No way, this is bad. When we go back, we must complain. This matter must be reported to Sect Master Laozu. He must punish those guards severely. A green light flashed in Lu Ping's eyes as he looked at the guard of the third floor. A third-level core forging realm cultivator was like an ant on a hot pan, circling around a pool of heaven and earth spirit water. He couldn't understand why a core forging realm demonic beast would appear on the third floor of the Eight Visions Tower when there were clearly only upper mystic level spirit items. Lu Ping passed by the fourth floor and arrived at the fifth floor. This was the floor that Yuan Xuanzhan was guarding. The Eight Visions Tower's guards were extremely strange existences. Apart from the Eight Visions Tower's eighth floor, which was the true control center of the Eight Visions Tower, there was a stone tablet in the center of the formation that could be used by cultivators to refine. Moreover, these stone tablets were different from the Real Mansion guarding stone tablets. After refining them, the cultivator would only be able to control the situation on the floor the tablet was on. Not only would the cultivator be under the control of the Real Mansion guarding stone tablet, but the cultivator who refined each floor's stone tablet would also no longer be able to escape the Eight Views Pavilion's control. To be more precise, they would no longer be able to escape Lu Ping's control. Even if these cultivators left the Eight Visions Pagoda, their cultivation and spells would still be affected by the Eight Visions Pagoda. The power of the Eight Visions Pagoda would also depend on the cultivation of the guardians. Simply put, these guardians were equivalent to the slaves of the Eight Visions Pagoda. At present, the 8 Visions Tower had only condensed 8 treasures. Therefore, these cultivators who refined the stone tablets on each floor, no matter how talented they were, could only increase their cultivation to the 8th stage of the core forging stage. The spiritual objects placed inside would also not exceed the upper earth level. Once the 8 Visions Tower passed the first lightning tribulation, the spiritual objects inside could be placed at the lower earth level, and the guards on each floor could also have the possibility of condensing their Dharma power. In this way, the 8 Visions Tower became a 2 tribulation spiritual treasure. The spiritual objects could be placed at the middle earth level, and the guards on each floor could also have the possibility of advancing to the middle Dharma power. After the 8 Visions Tower passed the third lightning tribulation, it became a pure yang-level spiritual treasure. Then, the guards would also have the opportunity to become great cultivators. However, even if these cultivators became great cultivators, no matter how powerful they were in front of others, as long as the 8 Visions Tower was activated, these people could only obediently return to be guards inside. Chapter 868. Although the 8th Scenic Pavilion restricted the strength and freedom of each floor's guardian, it was undeniable that the 8th Scenic Pavilion also gave the guardians the possibility of rapidly increasing their cultivation. Some cultivators who had reached a bottleneck but had yet to surpass the 8th stage of the core forging stage could take the opportunity to break through and reach a higher stage if they volunteered to become guardians of the 8th Scenic Pavilion. Moreover, some cultivators who had no hope of reaching the Dharma stage might have the possibility of advancing to the Dharma stage as the 8th Scenic Pavilion became a spiritual treasure. Naturally, that was only a possibility. With the assistance of the 8 Scenic Pavilions, they would have a higher chance of going further compared to the cultivators outside the 8 Scenic Pavilions. That was also why some cultivators would volunteer to become the guardians of the 8 Scenic Pavilions. Truth be told, this was a mutually beneficial and win-win method that the sect had opened up for the cultivators who had lost their path to cultivation. However, this new method had been refined by Lu Ping. In other words, all cultivators who used this method would be restricted by Lu Ping in the future. This was also the reason why Tianlin Laozu had insisted on taking the 8th Scenic Pavilion from Lu Ping and placing it in the back mountain of Tianling Mountain. At least in name, this treasure had to be under the control of Jinling. This way, the risk of Lu Ping wielding this treasure would be minimized. With the cover of the sect, this power, which was highly likely to grow to an unimaginable level in the future, would not die prematurely. When Lu Ping arrived at the 5th floor, Yuan Xuanzhan was meditating with his eyes closed. His aura seemed to merge with the entire 8 Scenic Pavilion. Very quickly, he sensed Lu Ping's arrival. Lu Ping looked at Yuan Xuanzhan, who had also opened his eyes and was looking at him calmly. He nodded. Very good, you have refined the 5th floor's guardian stone tablet. Your cultivation has also been pushed to the peak of the 5th stage of the core forging stage. The 5th floor of the pavilion is now under your control. Yuan Xuanzhan's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. Can I refuse? Lu Ping smiled and took out a stone. Everything around the pavilion seemed to become much heavier. Yuan Xuanzhan looked at the stone in Lu Ping's hand and narrowed his eyes. This is a magnetic absorbing stone. Lu Ping said, yes, this is indeed a magnetic absorbing stone. It is a high-grade Earth-class Earth attribute spiritual object and is also the guardian spirit of the 5th floor. From now on, you will use it to guard the 5th floor. Yuan Xuanzhan snorted coldly. You sure are generous. This magnetic absorbing stone is an extremely special existence among high-grade Earth-class spiritual objects. In order to conserve spiritual objects for our disciples to refine, the 8th Scenic Pavilion mostly uses mystic spiritual objects. You brought out such a large high-grade Earth-class spiritual object. Aren't you afraid that my sect's Laozu will rush in and snatch it? Lu Ping smiled. They won't rush in. I still have some use for this magnetic absorbing stone. It's just that this 8 scenic pavilion is only used to train blood condensation disciples. It's a waste. I'll use it here for now. I'll take it back in the future. Lu Ping left the 5th floor and went straight to the 8th floor where the guardian's stone tablet was placed. He sent out a stream of dense true yuan towards the small pavilion. The entire 8 scenic pavilion lit up from the 1st floor up. The colorful light illuminated the entire back mountain of Tianling Mountain. At this time, of the 4 Laozu guarding Tianling Mountain, Tianxiang Laozu only glanced in the direction of the back mountain in surprise. Tianling Laozu frowned. Laozu Tianshan was a little surprised, while Laozu Tianshu was completely at a loss. Not long after, a disciple who was training in the 8 scenic pavilion rushed all the way to the 3rd floor. Out of curiosity, he walked up the stairs to the 4th floor. He didn't expect that the pavilion, which was filled with restrictions, would suddenly open. This disciple thought that it was another training ground set up by the sect. Naturally, he wouldn't miss this opportunity. In just the time it takes for a joss stick to burn, a peak blood condensation disciple with a body full of injuries appeared outside the 8 scenic pavilion. When someone rushed over after hearing the news, the disciple only managed to say a few words, 4th floor, core forging training ground. Then, he completely fainted. The Pill Pavilion's examination finally began under the anticipation of Jinling and the various subordinate forces and clans. Those who could participate in this examination were all alchemists. Most of them were from the 3rd and 4th generation of Jinling. There were also alchemists from Jinling's subordinate forces who hadn't reached the rank of Master Alchemist yet. There were more than 100 people in total. Among them, nearly 70 were alchemists nurtured by Jinling, and nearly 40 were alchemists from the subordinate forces. The examination was divided into 4 parts. The first part was to randomly choose a mid-stage blood condensation pill recipe from the questions given by Jinling. The second part was to randomly choose a pill recipe to concoct, but this time, it was a late-stage blood condensation pill. The third part was to randomly choose a pill recipe to concoct a half-step core forging pill. The spiritual herbs used for these 3 tests were provided by Jinling for free. Even alchemists who couldn't concoct late-stage blood condensation pills could use spiritual herbs to practice. However, when it came to concocting half-step core forging pills, alchemists who couldn't concoct late-stage blood condensation pills were disqualified. After all, Jinling's spiritual herbs weren't for nothing. Knowing that alchemists couldn't even concoct late-stage blood condensation pills, how could they allow alchemists to concoct half-step core forging pills? In the 4th round, the pill refiners had to choose a pill that they were good at, and the quality of the pill had to be at least at the late blood condensation realm. If the first 3 rounds were a comprehensive test, then the last round was a competition between the best pill refiners. The results of the 4 tests would be evaluated by an examiner consisting of Grandmaster alchemists from Jinling's subordinate forces. Based on this evaluation, the ranking of each alchemist would be determined. The top 10 alchemists would be awarded prizes from Jinling and the examiners themselves. Lu Ping couldn't help but curse in his heart when he saw the process of the exam. He felt that the entire process had nothing to do with him. In fact, when he thought about it, the examiners were all ordinary alchemists. The pills they concocted were all blood condensation realm pills. These pills were more than enough for the examiners to evaluate. Even if he said a few words, what could he do? Even if there were 1 or 2 disciples who managed to advance to Grandmaster level in this exam, they would only be beginners. Those who could become examiners were all immersed in refining core forging level pills for hundreds of years. In front of them, even an early core forging level pill could be evaluated by them. How could an alchemy Grandmaster like him even need to make a move? Lu Ping carefully watched the entire exam. There were only 3 things he could do. First, before the exam, all the examiners, including the main examiner, would practice their alchemy skills in Pellet Pavilion. As a Grandmaster alchemist and the main examiner, Lu Ping would naturally be the last to perform his alchemy skills. Lu Ping felt indignant in his heart. This was clearly an attempt to force him to abdicate. If the pills Lu Ping refined were not as good as the pills refined by the Grandmaster alchemists before him, then Lu Ping would really be in trouble. Not only would he lose face, but Jinling's image would also be tarnished. Of course, this was also Lu Ping's opinion after knowing the process of the exam. If he was really forced to do something beyond his ability, Lu Ping wouldn't believe that his alchemy skills would be inferior to those Grandmaster alchemists. The second thing was more or less related to the exam. That was, Lu Ping had the final right to evaluate the pills refined by each alchemist who participated in the exam. In other words, Lu Ping had the power to decide the final result of each alchemist in the exam. Chapter 869. Lu Ping looked at the hundreds of alchemists in the square. 2/3 of them were using low-grade cauldrons, and less than 1/3 were using mid-grade cauldrons. As for high-grade cauldrons, none of them were using high-grade ones. In the North Sea, there was an unspoken rule that only Grandmaster alchemists could use high-grade pill furnaces. Moreover, most of the North Sea's Grandmaster alchemists only had a mid-grade pill furnace. If they wanted to refine high-grade pills, they would sometimes have to ask for help from forces that had high-grade pill furnaces. Fortunately, these Grandmaster alchemists had high statuses. Generally, as long as they asked for help, the major forces and families would rarely refuse. Even in the pill pavilion, Tianlu Laozu would sometimes agree to use Jinling's high-grade pill furnaces for those Grandmaster alchemists who were on good terms with him. Looking at this scene, Lu Ping could not help but lament the poverty of the North Sea's cultivation world. He thought back to the time when he participated in the Northern Alliance's alchemy conference in the East Sea. There were many blood condensation cultivators who had not even succeeded in refining core forging pills. Many of them used high-grade pill furnaces, and some even used top-grade pill furnaces. Although these people represented the major powers and clans behind them, at the very least, the subsidiary powers and clans of Zhenling's sect would not be able to provide high-grade pill furnaces for these cultivators to use in the pill pavilion's examination. Just as Lu Ping's imagination was running wild, the host of the alchemy conference, spiritual master Xian Dian, announced the start of the conference. Tianlu Laozu had 4 disciples, Xian Yan, Xian Jing, Tian Qin, and Xian Dian. Among these 4, except for Tian Qin Laozu, who had surpassed his predecessors, the other 3 were all Grandmaster alchemists. Spiritual Master Xuandian was fine. He had only been a disciple of the Forsaken Sky Cauldron ancestor for a short period of time. His knowledge of the enmity between the Sky Zither ancestor and the Heavenly Spirit ancestor was very vague. On the other hand, Spiritual Master Xian Yan and Spiritual Master Xian Jing were hostile towards Lu Ping because of the matter between Tianling Laozu and Laozu. Especially in this pill pavilion's examination, Lu Ping was sitting at the head of the table. Moreover, he was one of the only 2 third-generation disciples among the 9 Grandmaster alchemists. This made Spiritual Master Xian Yan, who sat next to Lu Ping, and Spiritual Master Xian Jing, who sat to the east, felt very uncomfortable. But the 2 had no choice but to endure. Lu Ping's position as the pavilion head proctor was personally appointed by the Forsaken Heavenly Cauldron's cultivation base and alchemy skills. Even if the 2 were dissatisfied, they had to admit that they couldn't compare to Lu Ping in either. The only thing that the 2 of them criticized was Lu Ping's status as a 3rd-generation disciple. But when they thought about Tian Shu Laozu, they had no choice but to swallow their dissatisfaction. Before the pill pavilion's examination, the 9 examiners would come forward to practice their alchemy skills, also known as the pill exhibition. Although it was before the examination, it was indeed one of the highlights of the entire examination. At this time, a large number of cultivators from Zhenling and its affiliated forces had gathered outside the pill pavilion's square. Among them, there were also many alchemists who had not participated in the examination. Most of them were Jinling's second-generation disciples. Most of them had come for the pill exhibition before the examination. The first to go on stage was Jinling's alchemy grandmaster. Among the third-generation disciples, he was second only to Grandmaster Lu Xianping, Taoist Master Xian Fang. Taoist Master Xian Fang took out a small bag from his waist. This was a storage bag specially used by Taoist Master Xian Fang to store his alchemy furnace. Taoist Master Xian Fang shook the storage bag, and a square alchemy furnace floated out of the bag. Dang! The 3-feet-tall alchemy furnace fell on the square and made a crisp sound when it hit the bluestone on the ground. Lu Ping was very familiar with this alchemy furnace. It was the high-grade alchemy furnace that Lu Ping had used when he became an alchemy grandmaster. Later, because Lu Ping had a better Na Chuan cauldron, he gave this alchemy furnace to the new alchemy grandmaster, Taoist Master Xian Fang. Colored glass grass, ancient vine leaves, 1,000 clear branches, Lu Ping just looked at the 1,000-year spirit grass that Taoist Master Xian Fang took out. He knew that he was going to refine the ancient glass pill, which was a commonly used pill in the middle stage of the core forging stage. After all these years, Taoist Master Xian Fang's alchemy skills had also improved greatly. Although the ancient glass pill was not the best pill in the middle stage of the core forging stage, it was still the best pill to show the alchemy skills of an alchemy grandmaster. This kind of pill only took a short time to refine, at most half a day. In fact, this was to not affect the normal progress of the alchemy exam. It seemed that this alchemy exhibition was not peaceful. Although it was to demonstrate alchemy skills to the younger generation, and the alchemy skills between the grandmasters were also secretly competing with each other. On the stage, Lu Ping could not help but show a trace of a sarcastic smile. If it was just putting the spirit grass into the alchemy furnace to refine the pill, the proportion of time in the whole alchemy process was not high. The real time-consuming part was the large amount of preparation work before the alchemy. For this alchemy exhibition, the preparation work was obviously completed by the alchemy grandmasters. What was shown in front of everyone was only the last refining process of the spirit grass into the furnace. As Taoist Master Xian Fang snapped his fingers, an orange flame began to burn at the bottom of the high-grade alchemy furnace. The alchemy exhibition had officially begun. However, when Lu Ping looked at the orange flame of Taoist Master Xian Fang, he showed a trace of surprise. A middle-grade earth-level small orange flame. Previously, Taoist Master Xian Fang had only used a high-grade profound-level spirit fire. This was because after he became an alchemy grandmaster, Tianlu Laozu had specially rewarded him with a heaven and earth-level spirit fire. It seemed like enlightened Master Xian Fang had gained a lot from his time in the Middle Earth. In terms of alchemy, the little orange fire was much stronger than the Earth-class mid-grade Xian Tian spirit burning fire Lu Ping had. However, after using a high-grade spirit stone, the profound sky spirit fire's grade would temporarily rise to a high-grade earth-level spirit fire. This was something that the small orange flame could not compare to. Following behind Taoist Master Xian Fang was an alchemy grandmaster called Li Yanshan. He was a new alchemy grandmaster who had emerged from the forces under Jinling. In recent years, this grandmaster Li Yanshan had been in the limelight in the areas under Jinling's control. Of course, this was also because Taoist Master Xian Fang and Lu Ping were in the Middle Earth. Grandmaster Li Yanshan also took out a high-grade alchemy furnace. However, this alchemy furnace was rusty and damaged. Even so, no matter if it was an alchemy grandmaster or an ordinary cultivator, none of them laughed at him. For a rogue cultivator like Grandmaster Li Yanshan to be able to take out a high-grade alchemy furnace was already very impressive. Especially those alchemy grandmasters, many of them even had looks of envy on their faces. A light red flame was burning in his palm. Lu Ping recognized that this was a high-grade earth-level spirit fire. It was called the lightning strike flame. Legend has it that this flame was formed when a spirit wood was struck by lightning and burned for many years. After Li Yanshan was Taoist Master Xian Dian. As the last disciple of Fornax Laozu, Taoist Master Xian Dian was a modest person. The heaven and earth level spirit fire he used was also a mid-grade earth level spirit fire. Next were two alchemy grandmasters from other forces. Their alchemy furnaces were both high-grade, but their spirit fires were only low-grade earth-level spirit fires. When Taoist Master Xian Jing stood up, he intentionally or unintentionally glanced in the direction of Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping did not even look at him. In the past, Taoist Master Xian Jing used the spirit stealing technique to steal 1/3 of the medicinal properties of the forging spirit pill that Tianling Laozu sent to the pill pavilion. This almost caused Liang Tianfeng Laozu to fail in refining the Tianfeng leaf. At that time, it was thanks to Lu Ping that he had mastered the refining method of the minor forging spirit pill, which helped Liang Tianfeng Laozu condense a good 7th grade golden pill. Otherwise, Jinling might have lost a Fa Xiang Laozu. After this incident, Tianlu Laozu was furious, and Taoist Master Xian Jing's cultivation was almost abolished. From then on, all the affairs of the pill pavilion were no longer handed over to him. However, although Taoist Master Xian Jing's character and cultivation were not good, his alchemy skills were really brilliant. Not to mention the ingenuity of the spirit-stealing technique, just by looking at the disciple he taught, Taoist Master Xian Fang, and his status among the third-generation disciples of the Pill Pavilion, it could be seen that this person had real skills. If it were not for a monstrous genius like Lu Ping in Jinling, Taoist Master Xian Fang would have become an existence that could call the wind and summon the rain among the third-generation disciples of Jinling. Taoist Master Xian Jing used 1/3 of the stolen forging spirit pill to successfully refine a middle-grade earth-level spirit object. After advancing to the late stage of core forging, his alchemy skills had really improved. A pill furnace appeared on the square of the pill pavilion in front of Lu Ping, who looked as if he had seen a ghost. Not only Lu Ping, but the other alchemy grandmasters present were also shocked. The cultivators watching the scene even exclaimed. Taoist Master Xian Jing actually took out a top-grade pill furnace. The cultivators outside the square naturally marveled at the appearance of a top-grade pill furnace, but Lu Ping and the others were greatly surprised, because they all recognized this top-grade pill furnace. It was the pill furnace used by Tianqin Laozu on a daily basis. They didn't expect that he would actually ask for it from Tianqin Laozu. The only person in the square who was not surprised was Taoist Master Xian Yan. Among the 4 disciples of Tianlu Laozu, Taoist Master Xian Jing had the best relationship with Tianqin Laozu. Although Taoist Master Xian Jing's character was somewhat flawed and narrow-minded, but it was undeniable that his protection of Tianqin Laozu came from the bottom of his heart. When Tianqin Laozu entered Tianlu Laozu's tutelage, she was still a little girl, and Taoist Master Xian Jing protected her like an elder brother. When it came to the friendship between Tianlu Laozu's disciples, the relationship between Tianqin Laozu and Taoist Master Xian Jing was the deepest. Taoist Master Xian Yan was not surprised that Taoist Master Xian Jing was able to ask Tianqin Laozu for a top-grade pill furnace. A mid-grade earth-level heaven and earth spirit fire. This was the mid-grade earth-level heaven and earth spirit fire that Taoist Master Xian Jing had refined when he had advanced to the late core forging stage. In addition to the high-grade earth-level heaven and earth spirit fire that he had refined when he had advanced to the mid-core forging stage, the quality of this heaven and earth spirit fire was almost at the same level. Lu Ping looked at the spirit herbs that Taoist Master Xian Jing took out and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The illusionary pill was an elixir of the highest quality among the late core forging stage elixirs. The difficulty of refining it was also quite high. Usually, if an alchemist could successfully refine this kind of elixir, it usually meant that he or she had the qualifications to refine elixirs that were half a step into the Dharma realm. He didn't expect that Taoist Master Xian Jing's alchemy skills would improve so quickly. Lu Ping couldn't help but look at Taoist Master Xian Yan and Taoist Master Xian Yu on his side. Since Taoist Master Xian Jing had taken out the illusionary pill, these two seemed to have elixirs that were at least half a step into the Dharma realm. None of the real heaven and earth spiritual fire was weak in the eyes of a real expert. The difference was only in the person using it. Not only these ordinary alchemists, but also among the 8 alchemy grandmasters controlling the flame, Taoist Xian Fang and the other 2 grandmasters from the affiliated forces were also looking at the flame in Lu Ping's hand with puzzled eyes. When the other 3 masters, Taoist Xian Yan, Taoist Xian Jing and Taoist Xian Yu saw the heaven and earth spiritual fire in Lu Ping's hand, their faces simultaneously revealed a shocked expression. Taoist Xian Yu had obtained Lu Ping's red spiritual fire from Fornax Laozu, but Fornax Laozu did not tell him that Lu Ping had obtained the silver spiritual fire. At the same time, Taoist Li Yan also recognized the heaven and earth spiritual fire in Lu Ping's hand. Looking at this person's expression, Lu Ping was a little surprised. It seemed that this person's inheritance was also not bad. His vision and knowledge were not bad, but he did not have the support of a big force behind him. That broken high-grade alchemy furnace was fine, but that profound grade spiritual fire was a little lacking. Taoist Xian Dian was also puzzled at first, but after a moment, he seemed to remember the origin of the flame in Lu Ping's hand. Suddenly, like Taoist Xian Yan and the others, his face was full of amazement. The silver spiritual fire was really an extremely rare spiritual fire among the heaven and earth spiritual fires. Martial nephew Lu, this flame, could it be? Seeing that Taoist Xian Yu was about to ask, the cultivators watching the ceremony all pricked up their ears. The expressions of the several alchemy grandmasters present were all seen by everyone. How could they not know that this seemingly ordinary flame that Taoist Lu Xianping took out must certainly have a great origin? However, Taoist Xian Yu said, could it be, for a long time, perhaps because he did not want to reveal the details of Lu Ping. In the end, he did not say the name of the flame, causing many of the cultivators present to secretly curse at him. Lu Ping nodded and said with a smile, Martial Uncle's guess is correct, this is the silver spiritual fire. Although Taoist Xian Yu did not think that Lu Ping would say the name of the spiritual fire, but hearing that it was indeed the strange spiritual fire he had guessed, he could not help but sigh and said, so it is. When the other alchemy grandmasters heard about the silver spiritual fire, their expressions changed. Even Taoist Xian Fang and the others did not recognize it, but they had definitely heard of this famous alchemy flame. Soon, the alchemy grandmasters who had heard of the silver spiritual fire cried out in surprise, and the name of the silver spiritual fire spread to all the cultivators present. Most of the cultivators did not know the specific function of the silver spiritual fire, but just the words, heaven rank middle grade, was enough for many of the cultivators present to praise it for a long time. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and drew a line in front of him. 20 to 30 white jade boxes that were specially used to store spiritual herbs appeared in front of him. Een spirit leaf, 9 crooked ginseng, star anise root, yellow forest bark. Every time Lu Ping took out a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb from a jade box, the alchemy grandmasters present would shout out loudly. However, when Lu Ping took out nearly 33,000-year-old spiritual herbs in a row, including the alchemy grandmasters, no one could guess what Dan Lu Ping was going to refine. Although the 3 of them were much more experienced in alchemy than Taoist Master Xian Fang and perfected Li Yanshan, even though they were all in the middle stage of the core forging stage, the quality and success rate of their pills were better than Taoist Master Xian Fang and perfected Li Yanshan. However, Lu Ping did not see any spirituality in the 3 of them like Taoist Master Xian Fang and perfected Li Yanshan. This meant that the 3 of them had basically no chance of improving their alchemy skills. Taoist master Xian Fang and perfected Li Yenshan's alchemy skills still had a lot of room for improvement. Soon, it was time for Taoist master Xian Jing to open his cauldron. 3 illusionary pills flew out of the cauldron in a row. This made Taoist master Xian Jing very satisfied. If he had used a high-grade cauldron to refine the illusionary pills in the past, he would only be able to produce 2 pills at a time. Although he had used a top-grade cauldron this time, a large part of the reason was that his alchemy skills had improved significantly. The illusionary pills had a 30% success rate. This meant that he could at least ask his master, Tianlu Laozu, to refine elixirs that were half a step into the Dharma stage. However, he was a little worried. This time, it was obviously because he had Tianqin Laozu's top-grade cauldron in his hands. After this, he would have to return the cauldron. Taoist master Xian Jing knew that when Tianling Laozu and Tianlin Laozu had turned against each other, Tianqin Laozu had been unhappy with him. It was only because of their old friendship that he had lent the cauldron to him. If he were to borrow it again in the future, it would not be so easy anymore. Putting away the cauldron and the spirit fire, Taoist master Zhenling waved his hand at the cheering disciples around him. Taoist master Xian Jing looked at Lu Xianping, who was controlling the silver spirit fire to refine elixirs leisurely. What kind of elixir was this guy refining? Taoist master Xian Jing was not the only one who had this question. Almost all the alchemists present had the same question. What kind of elixir was Grandmaster Lu Xianping refining? Taoist master Xian Yan's spirit cleansing pill was finally about to be refined. This kind of high-grade elixir had the same effect on late core forging adepts. In Taoist master Xian Yan's Linchuan cauldron, he had also achieved a 30% success rate. Under normal circumstances, a cauldron of elixirs would only contain 10 elixirs. The common rule of the Zhenling sect was to achieve at least a 30% success rate for elixirs to be considered qualified. Therefore, Taoist master Xian Jing's illusionary pills had reached a 30% success rate. He was now qualified to refine elixirs that were half a step into the Dharma stage. Taoist master Xian Yan had also achieved a 30% success rate. This meant that he could finally refine the spirit cleansing pill. Taoist master Xian Yan did not like Lu Ping either. However, it was just a simple dislike. It was not like Taoist master Xian Jing, who hated him to the point of scheming against him. However, he also had some doubts about the elixir that Lu Ping had refined. It was not only because of the mysteriousness of the elixir, but also because of the silver spirit flame. It was said that although the silver spirit flame could increase the success rate of elixirs, the amount of inner yuan required to control the spirit flame was double that of a normal spirit flame. The time required to control the spirit flame was also double that of a similar elixir. In this way, using the silver spirit flame to refine a cauldron of elixirs would consume 4 times the amount of inner yuan compared to a normal cultivator. Would this guy be able to withstand it? If there was a situation where he ate elixirs and used spirit stones to replenish his inner yuan, then he would become a laughing stock. Taoist master Xian Yan's level was higher than Taoist master Xian Jing's level of schadenfreude. At the very least, he would consider that if Lu Ping really made a fool of himself, he would be touching Zhenling's own dark side. Compared to the mystery of Lu Ping's elixir, Taoist master Xian Yu's Zhongding elixir was much more attention-grabbing. After all, the Zhongding elixir was the elixir that made Tianlu Laozu famous in the past. Although it was only half a step to the Dharma stage, the core forging stage and Dharma stage cultivators who had survived all these years because of the Zhongding elixir were not the only ones in Zhenling. There were also many people from other sections. This had given Zhenling a lot of favors and reputation. What's more, there was also the Firmament Cauldron, the #1 cauldron of Zhenling in name. As for the red spirit flame, although very few of the cultivators present knew about it, Lu Ping had to prepare for the worst. Although he roughly knew about Tianlu Laozu's plan, in reality, he was not optimistic about it. After all, the red spirit flame had a lot of implications. If there was really a misunderstanding with the Fire Phoenix race, he hoped that Yan Wujiu and Wan Yu would have enough weight to help him. Taoist Master Xian Yu was a little surprised that the 4 Zhongding elixirs were out of the cauldron. This meant that he even had the qualifications to start refining the Dharma stage elixir. He was already a genuine alchemy grandmaster. This was not something that a half-step grandmaster could compare with. The latter was usually just a way to elevate others, but Taoist Master Xian Yu was the real alchemy grandmaster. All he lacked was the last Dharma stage elixir. Lu Ping was still refining his elixir leisurely. Until now, the mysterious elixir refined in the Na Chuan cauldron did not seem to have any signs of solidifying. What kind of elixir was this? As time slowly passed, the number of Jinling cultivators who came to the square to watch the ceremony did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Now, it seemed that all the Jinling cultivators who stayed behind in Tianling Mountain knew that Taoist Master Lu Xianping was refining a mysterious elixir. Everyone in the square was looking forward to the final mystery being revealed. No one showed a trace of impatience, including cultivators like Taoist Master Xian Jing who had a grudge with Lu Ping. Lu Ping raised his head and looked at the sky. Unknowingly, wisps of clouds had drifted over and covered the sun that was already slanting in the west. As Lu Ping was the only one left in the square, the previously bustling scene seemed a little cold. The breeze brought a hint of coolness. Lu Ping nodded in his heart. It seemed that it was almost time to solidify the elixir. However, it was his first time refining this kind of elixir. He really did not know what the success rate would be. Although it was only an early-stage Dharma realm elixir, even if he did not use the purple crystal royal jelly, he still had a success rate of more than 40%. However, if something went wrong, he would really be overreaching himself this time. It's solidifying, it's solidifying. The cultivators in the square who were watching were suddenly shocked. Hundreds of divine thoughts and divine senses surged into the Na Chuan cauldron, but they obediently left enough space. They did not dare to interfere with Lu Ping's divine thoughts in controlling the process of solidifying the elixir in the cauldron. Another half an hour passed. According to the normal alchemy process, it was already the final time to open the cauldron. The rich fragrance of the elixir had already filled the entire elixir pavilion square. It's time to open the cauldron. If we don't open it now, it looks like it's going to rain. Many cultivators in the square saw that the sky had gradually darkened. Jinling's mountain defense formation would not block out ordinary weather like wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. It can't be. Until now, there are still 10 elixirs in the cauldron. A cultivator exclaimed in a low voice. At this time, many cultivators realized that until now, there were still 10 elixirs in the Na Chuan cauldron that had gradually solidified, and none of them had been destroyed. Grandmaster Lu Xianping is really amazing. He can even have a 100% success rate of Dharma realm elixirs. No, this is too strange. Dharma realm elixirs have a 100% success rate and none of them have been destroyed. Is it possible? Didn't you see that the few masters on the square are frowning? Even they don't believe it. Indeed, although it is an early-stage Dharma realm elixir, who has ever heard of a 100% success rate? I'm afraid that only alchemists who have achieved the divine soul stage can achieve this. Boom! A muffled thunder suddenly sounded in the sky, and the whole world became even darker.